party with 2 friends. She wasn't feeling well and no longer wanted to stay the night. Could her mother come and collect her? Karen had also been at a friend's home that night for a Halloween party and had no intention of returning to the family home. Nonetheless, the loving mother picked up her daughter, drove back to their house, and at some time after 2 a.m., the two crawled into bed together and went to sleep. Karen's husband David was at home. He was with 6-year-old Keely in an upstairs bedroom. When Ashley awoke, she was no longer in her mother's room. She was with her younger sister in the downstairs bedroom. Both girls had been moved into the same room while they slept in the night. Their mother's vehicle, a white 2004 Nissan Murano, was also missing. 2 phone calls were placed to the Dyer County Sheriff's Office around 3 p.m. that same day to report Karen Swift missing. One was placed by David Swift after his phone calls to Karen's friends had failed to locate her. The second report came from 2 of these concerned friends, Bill and Kathy Bona. Karen's Nissan had been spotted abandoned on the side of Mills Field Highway in northern Dyer County, roughly a quarter mile from the Swift family home. The SUV appeared to have a flat tire. Deputy Alexander arrived on scene, followed shortly by Sergeant Walker of the Dyer County Sheriffs. They found David already with the car. He had unlocked the doors and taken a quick look for Karen's personal belongings, her keys, purse, or cell phone. Karen's cell phone was missing. Protruding from the flat tire was a single rusty screw. It appeared that Karen had unfortunately driven over the sharp object at exactly the right angle to pierce the tire. Neither the deputy or sergeant found any indication that anything suspicious had occurred inside the vehicle. Neither of the officers reported observing any traces of blood internally or externally. Later forensic testing by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the TBI, of the SUV likewise returned nothing of note. Beyond the fact that no one had been able to reach Karen on her phone, Deputy Alexander made another unsettling observation. When the deputy, at 6 foot 2 inches in height, got into the driver's seat in order to move the vehicle to impound, he was surprised to find that he did not need to adjust the seat back in order to fit comfortably. It seemed unlikely that Karen Swift, at only 5 foot 5 inches, was the last person to drive the Nissan. A search for Karen began promptly, beginning at the location of her abandoned vehicle and spreading out into the rural landscape.
My missing mother of 4 here from Dyer County, Tennessee. Today we've intensified our search by once again utilizing an aerial search with a Tennessee Highway Patrol helicopter. Also, approximately 16 members of the Tennessee Highway Patrol strike team, which is an advanced search team that they have.
A pair of jeans and a top, later determined to be Karen's, were located a short distance from the car. The Halloween costume that Karen had worn to her friend's home on the night she disappeared remained in the SUV. The Nissan Murano had been left only minutes from the Swift house. Speaking with David, police learned that he had last seen his wife the night before, in their home, around 2 a.m. when she had returned with Ashley. There had been no sightings since that time. They also learned that Karen filed for divorce from David 3 weeks earlier. The two had chosen to remain in the family home together since that time to offer stability to their children. David and Karen Swift had always had a complicated romance. First married in 1989, the couple went on to have 2 children, both boys, Preston and Dustin. Less than a decade into the marriage, cracks began to appear. In 1996, David began a 3-year-long affair with a coworker, which resulted in the birth of another baby by his mistress. Karen reportedly discovered her husband's infidelity upon the birth of the child and filed for divorce. It was finalized in 2000. Not long after the papers were signed, however, the couple began to reconcile. In September of 2000, on the anniversary of their first wedding, they tied the knot once again. The second time around, the couple welcomed 2 more children, both girls, Ashley and Keely. Not to be outdone, it would be Karen this time that chose to step out of the marriage and began an affair. In response to his wife's infidelity, David determined that what was needed for the family was a fresh start. At that time, the family had been living in Arkansas. David quit his job and found one in manufacturing management in Dyersburg, Tennessee. Then he purchased a new home and told his wife to pack up. David's decision to uproot the family was reportedly made independently, as well as rapidly. The move occurred so abruptly, in fact, that their eldest son, Preston, was left behind to complete the school year, while the rest of the family moved into the new house, a house that Karen had laid eyes on for the first time when unloading their belongings into it. Regardless of the rushed transition to rural Tennessee, Karen settled in quickly. Allegedly, David wasn't keen on her working. The mom of four, nonetheless, found ways to earn her own money. She cleaned houses, she did landscaping. Somewhat of a fitness fanatic, she also began teaching aerobics classes. These roles, coupled with Karen's outgoing nature, led to many new friendships. She was an extroverted, cheerful person. Friends described Karen as truly selfless, perhaps to a fault. She was always preoccupied with the comfort of others, so much so that she would shy away from asking for help when she needed it. Even as her marriage once again was headed for divorce. This time, her husband's behavior had made her fearful for her own safety. Despite reported instances of David stalking Karen while she was out and confronting her while she spent time with girlfriends, Karen would remark that there was no reason for undue worry. He was unpredictable, but she was probably just making more of it than warranted, she said. After her disappearance, the most consistent description of Karen Swift offered by those who knew her was that she was a great mother.
We want her to come home. We know her family needs her and her kids need her, and she's a wonderful mother, very strong woman. And I know that if she's out there, that she will find her way home.
Following his phone call to report Karen missing, David sat down with police. He was assisted into the police interview room just as he had been at the scene of the abandoned car by a set of crutches. He explained to detectives how an old knee injury from the spring had flared up again only a few days before.
Well, it was Easter morning. I had to have knee surgery. I had to have a total quadricep patella-tendon rupture. At my daughter's hockey game.
How are my two dudes today? Zombie, do you want to play some zombies with me later?
Morning, and about a week ago, it's been giving me a lot of problems. I'm having, stairs and stuff like that because I had to pull sutures.
Which ones you got? I'll show you right now.
It's restricted, but
I've got a bunch of them, dude. You keep whining all you want, little man. Keep whining all you want. You'll download more maps? Oh, you don't got to. You don't got to. You don't got to. I'm just saying, I got a shit ton of maps. Like, apparently, for some reason, for whatever reason, I used to have like 30 or 40 maps downloaded, right? I used to have a shit ton of maps downloaded. And for whatever reason, they never downloaded when I re-downloaded Black Ops 3. And then yesterday... Plus, yesterday, do you remember when I said we should play? Well, obviously, you remember what I said when we should play. I said we should play, and then it started to re-download Black Ops 3. There was like over 100 gigabytes. Well, apparently that 100 gigabytes was all just custom maps. Apparently that 100 gigabytes was all custom maps. Because watch, when I go into my custom maps now... When I go into my custom maps now, watch this shit. There's so many, bro. There's so many. Like, look how many I have. Look how many there are, bro. Holy. We gotta do the stairway. Yo, what we gotta do, Zombie Halloween. What we gotta do is the Stairway to Hell Remastered V.1. And then, like, whatever else you want to try. I don't really care. Seal this deal at 130 phone interview. Your first subcontract? Yo, good shit, Sean. Good shit, Shawnee. Dap me up, motherfucker. I'm talking about my expletive. But yeah, there's all the maps.
About a week ago, I was at work and turned wrong, and so I had an appointment today with another specialist to get a second opinion. But almost all this.
While still acquiring the background and contact information from David, he informed detectives that he had only just discovered that Karen had been using a second, what he called a secret cell phone. This device had been provided to her by Bill Bona, the husband of her good friend Kathy. He stated that he did not have the phone number.
Is that her primary?
Well,
Yes.
I'm finding out that she's got other phones, but that's the one that we've had, that she's had on the Verizon account that I pay for.
Right.
Yeah, octagonal. Well, yeah, let's play some, like, I don't know, some weird
That
map.
she has.
There's another map you want to play,
Well,
bro? Okay, we got that Amaria map or whatever it's called. If there's another, like, actual big map with an Easter egg and all of this, like, storyline horse shit that you want to do, let me know. Zombie, have you ever done the Origins Easter egg, dude? Have you ever done the Origins Easter egg, Zombie? Yeah, ages ago. Do you know how to do it? I don't know how to do it. Maybe we could do it sometime. I've never done the Origins Easter egg, dude. A good long story map, though? Okay. Yeah, bro, like, dude, honestly, Zombie, if you're down, bro, I'm super down just to start playing some, like, custom zombies with you and shit. You're a pretty chill guy, easy to talk to. I think it would be fun. You know what I mean? If you want to start doing some custom zombies and shit with me. If not, though, it's totally up to you. Like, don't feel fucking pressured. Sean, I haven't forgotten about your toke, bro. I was just warming up this fucking... I was just warming up my email here, so toke's up. Let's go. Zombie, did you go too? Alright, bro. I mean, shit, Zombie. If you actually want to, bro, I'm down to play zombies with you, like, quite often during the week and shit. Touche, Zombie, touche.
I found out yesterday that Bill
You ever do any world records there, homeboy?
Kathy Bono had given her another cell phone. She'd been using it for, and
Any idea what that number is?
I suspected because.
But according to David, it was not surprising that Karen would have kept something like this from him. From the topic of his wife's secrecy, David easily transitioned into a depiction of Karen as a partier and heavy drinker. And he implied repeatedly that Bill and Kathy Bona were somehow acting inappropriately with his
don't
wife.
recommend it, yeah.
Bill and Kathy's neighbor, Janie, and she was talking about the situation. And that everything that was going on with Bill and Kathy, she said, if you want to know what's going on, meet you in my backyard and you'll see what all's going on.
So, explain to me what the situation. We don't know.
You don't know?
We've done heard that about 3 times, I guess. So
From other people.
no,
For me, yeah.
You keep kind of hitting on it.
Okay, well.
David told detectives story after story of what he called Karen's erratic behavior. She began to change, he said, shortly after the move to Dyer County. He placed the blame on the new friends she had made, primarily the Bonas.
Send me the map.
He spoke about catching Karen undressed in their hot tub. He recalled that on one occasion, he arrived at the Bonas to find his wife naked in bed with her friend, Kathy.
I'd rather just keep trying new maps, so I'd rather try the ones you guys.
Sneaking out of the house, and she would go to be with Kathy and Bill. And I know even this past summer.
And when you say go to be with them, when you go to party with them,
go party, and I find them naked in the hot tub in the backyard. I found Karen naked in bed with Kathy one night, which Kathy has a master's degree in psychology, but she has a dance studio. I see that. And I think that's been a lot of the stuff that's been missing with Karen's head.
Boy, what's up, dude? How you doing?
To deal with the excessive drinking and partying that. There's been times during the day that, I'd come home early from work or something, and Karen would be, she was so drunk once that she was had passed out on the porch in her own vomit.
After David told a series of largely unprompted, as well as ungenerous stories of his wife's alleged behavior, detectives grew impatient and sought to steer David towards the facts relating to Karen's disappearance.
When she came home with Ashley's your daughter, correct? Was there any kind of argument or anything there?
I'm all for it, man.
He was very brief. I wanted to make sure that Ashley was okay, and that she was okay, because I questioned Karen about driving. Again, I said, if you can't drive, I'll get Ashley. And that was all the conversation was.
Okay. How close did you get to her? Could you tell whether she'd been drinking?
Oh, yeah, you could tell. I could always tell she drinking, and that was... But that was it, as soon as I realized that Ashley and they were unsafe, I went back upstairs and went to bed, and then I that's all I know until we got up about 10.
We got up
about Saturday morning, 9:30, 10, I woke up.
If after David went upstairs to bed, Karen had made the decision to leave the house in the night or the very early morning, where could she have been going? David was asked what he thought had happened to his wife. He pointed the finger back towards Kathy Bona once again. He claimed that police had told her that Karen's cell phone pinged at a location by the Mississippi River. Kathy had allegedly shared that information back to David.
That's the big guess right now. Where do you think she is?
I don't know. I'm so worried about her. I mean, she could be anywhere. With Kathy telling me that at this point in time, if she knows that there was a ping on the Mississippi River, then that's where my mind's going now. Is she somewhere?
Do you think that she may have just told you she had to throw you off? What if she's at her house?
Why would she be putting us through this and the girls?
Why have she done the things that she's done before and lied to you?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to believe anymore. With all the lies, the deceitfulness.
What if she has left with somebody? How are you going to take that?
I just want her to come home and to be a mother. If she don't want to be a wife, that's her decision. I can accept that. But if there's someone else, as long as they're not hurtful or harmful, but to the girls or whatever, I just have to accept it. But
As David collected his crutches and made his way from the room, he agreed to let investigators into his house to take a look around. A walkthrough of the Swift home revealed no signs of foul play. There was some untidiness, particularly in the downstairs bedroom used by Karen, but it could be interpreted as just the standard messiness expected in a busy household with 2 young children. Just like the forensic examination of Karen's car, a thorough sweep of the house revealed no evidence to what may have happened to the 44-year-old mother. Outside of the house, investigator Terry McCreet photographed 7 gallons of bleach. David Swift explained that he had this on hand due to a recent situation involving his dog. A neighbor of his, John Hogshooter, had been arrested the same day as Karen's disappearance on counts of animal cruelty. He was accused of poisoning the Swifts' dogs and others. Hogshooter would later claim it was accidental. He said that he didn't even know what the Swifts' dogs looked like, but had placed fly killer outside of his home due to an abundance of flies surrounding construction materials in his yard. David had used bleach to clean up dog vomit after the incident. The bleach was not taken into evidence, though investigators, wary of the neighbor's explanations, began to consider John Hogshuter a person of interest in Karen's disappearance. Karen had not believed that the poisoning was accidental and was understandably upset. During the search, McCreet also discovered divorce papers served to David Swift. They were tucked under a tire in the back of his vehicle. The search for the missing mother continued.
Today is November the 4th, 2011. It's approximately 9 p.m. We conclude our 6th day of searches for Miss Swift.
Days passed with no further signs of Karen. David was asked back to the station for yet another interview. By this time, he had spoken with the county detectives about the last time he saw his wife, offering 4 slightly different accounts. At first, he said he did not actually see her, but spoke to her from the top of the stairway. Then, he stated that he did see her, but it was unclear what clothing she was wearing. In the most recent iteration, he recalled seeing her clearly and could describe her clothing.
Did you actually physically see her?
Yeah,
What part of the house did you see her in?
it was in the kitchen.
In the kitchen?
Yeah.
Did y'all have any conversation?
It was very, very limited. She sat on the phone asking about me, and that was briefly it.
You remember what clothing she had on?
She had, they were blue jeans, I believe they had holes in them, and then a gray coat.
As the interview concluded, David inquired about the state of the missing persons investigation. They were still working on it, he was told. The search continued for months. Items were located. Most significantly, Trooper Jason Page found 2 cell phones, Karen's regular Verizon wireless device, as well as her second phone, known as a Voyager, which had been gifted to her by Kathy and Bill Bona. The trooper discovered both devices 145 feet off of Harness Road in a wooded area, only 500 feet from the Swift house and between the location of her abandoned vehicle and the family home. The cell phone data was revealing, in part because of a device called a signal extender that David Swift had installed in the house. Its purpose was to boost the cellular signal when at home, something that was very useful in rural Tennessee in 2011. When a device entered the range of the extender, it would automatically connect, and that data was recorded. Investigators could therefore see when Karen's Verizon phone connected to the extender just after 2 a.m. on October 30th. She had just returned home with Ashley from her sleepover. Her phone then left the range of the home extender at 4:38. At 5:09, the phone went off the main network and was never turned back on. When it was discovered, the phone appeared to have been partially crushed, possibly smashed on the road. Karen's vehicle was first spotted pulled over only minutes later at 5:15 a.m. The second device history was even more curious. The Voyager phone had also connected to the house extender, but at 9:55 a.m., a full 5 hours after the first device had been turned off and presumably smashed and discarded. There was a single call made from the secret Voyager device at that time to check the phone's voicemail. Then, miraculously, it ended up in the woods off of Harness Road, right next to Karen's other phone. The Bonas told investigators that they gave the Voyager to Karen to enable her to communicate with her divorce attorney. They said that David had been a controlling husband who sought to dictate Karen's every move. In addition to the cell phone, they had lent Karen the money that she needed to hire an attorney and to file for the divorce. On December 10, 2011, John Robinson, the preacher at the Bogota Church of Christ, along with his friend Mark Rickman, were leaving Bledsoe Cemetery around noon. There, under kudzu vines, they discovered human remains. The cemetery is less than 3 miles from the Swift home. An autopsy later determined that they had finally, after 6 weeks of searching, found Karen Swift. The mother of 4 was mostly unclothed, with her undergarments pushed below her knees. An examination determined that these had likely been pulled down due to the dragging of her body from the gravel pathway through the cemetery to where she was found. It did not appear that this was the location where Karen had died, but rather that she had been moved into the kudzu vines after an attack. After so many weeks, the medical examiner could not definitively state her cause of death. It was clear that Karen had sustained blunt force trauma to the head, which the pathologist determined would have been fatal had Karen been alive at the point the blow had been delivered. She was struck with an unknown heavy and blunt weapon while against a hard surface. The status of the case was formally changed from a missing person to a homicide. No weapon was ever recovered. David Swift remained the main suspect.
Yeah, so.
He didn't really have the reaction that normally what somebody would have if you said that you found your loved ones. But
what do you mean by that? What did he do?
If my memory serves me correct, I'm not really sure if he even called her by name. I'm not going to get into, the details of it, but it was just wasn't the right response to investigators. He has never assisted us in searching for her.
Suspicions aside, there was no evidence anywhere in the house, on the property, or in the family vehicles to suggest where a fatal blow could have taken place. During both interviews with David, investigators failed to observe any scratches or signs that he had been in a scuffle. Karen had no foreign DNA under her fingernails that would have suggested that she had fought against an attacker. Then there was David's leg injury. He had first indisputably damaged his left knee in April 2011 and had undergone surgery. A coworker later explained that only 3 days before his wife disappeared, they were speaking in the office hallway when David's left leg gave out and he collapsed to the floor. For days leading up to and many following Karen's death, her husband had been dependent upon the crutches and ostensibly unable to place full pressure of even his own body weight on the injured knee. This presented a conundrum for suspicious investigators, because he did not appear to be physically capable of committing the murder.
I believe that her husband is innocent, and if that is so, if I'm correct about that, then what he's been through is, far worse than anybody could imagine, because on top of losing his wife, he's been the prime suspect. The plot has thickened, and there's a lot more players involved than, what we thought.
Years passed and no arrest was made. Alongside David Swift, Bill and Kathy Bona, as well as the neighbor who placed out the fly poison, John Hogshooter, had their behaviors and movements around the time of Karen's death scrutinized. There were questions about the activities that took place at the Bona's house, particularly at Kathy's 40th birthday party, when multiple individuals were said to have undressed in their hot tub, including Karen. Although this behavior may have had little or no connection to her murder, to some it indicated that she may have been physically involved with others at the party, as David had implied repeatedly to police. To others, it may have been a motive for her husband to become enraged. There were other questions lingering. It emerged that another dog in the neighborhood had been poisoned around the same time as the Swift family pet. Sheriff's deputies had been called out to the house to address the incident when Karen had confronted Hogshooter on the same day that she went missing. And after her disappearance, other strange happenings were reported in the neighborhood. David and Karen's son Dustin recalled an encounter with an unknown man near to Bledsoe Cemetery not long before his mother was found there. The stranger held a metal detector, but when asked what he was doing, he told Dustin that he was exercising. Odd, Dustin thought, so he asked about the metal detector. To this, he was told by the man that he was actually searching for his watch. The thing is, Dustin saw clearly that the stranger was, in fact, already wearing a watch. What was this strange man's real purpose for lingering near to the rarely frequented cemetery? With so few traces of potential evidence to work with, speculation surrounding Karen's murder ran wild in the neighborhood and in the media for years.
So what do you think happened? Do you think David killed her? You don't.
I really
put you on.
I don't know. It could have been a lot of people, I guess.
Do you know that it really could have been or not? Or if you don't want to talk about it?
I really don't know, you know. Very
Think about the way the investigation's going.
Well, at first I thought it was going really well. You know, they were picking up all this evidence and they were finding these things here, there, you know, and yon. But, and I was given hope that every time something came back from the lab, that this is it, this is it, this is it. But I don't know what they're looking for. There's not a smoking gun. I don't know what they have to have. See, they interviewed Ashley once early on, and David will not allow her to be interviewed anymore. So.
And what do you think about the fact, and David won't talk to them either, so what do you think about the fact that he won't talk and he won't let Ashley talk?
Silence says a lot.
In the following years, the Swift family left the Dyersburg area. David eventually remarried and settled in Jefferson County, Alabama. But public pressure to bring charges for Karen's murder back in Tennessee remained. Reviewing the case file, investigators, including Terry McCreet, began to piece together a theory of the crime which would account for all of the evidence and placed David Swift at its center. Dyer County investigators believed that the jilted husband, angry over Karen's decision to file for divorce and seeking to control her, began planning the murder days in advance. The first step in his plan was faking the re-injury of his knee in front of his coworker. On the night of October 29th, he made a last-ditch effort to save his marriage by asking Karen out to dinner. Instead, his wife chose to attend a Halloween party with Bill and Kathy Bona, infuriating David even further. Due to the lack of defensive wounds, it was believed that Karen was attacked while she slept. But the fatal blow could not have occurred in the bedroom. They believed she had been strangled. Karen had been in bed with 9-year-old Ashley, whom David must have moved into the other room along with her sister before he attacked Karen to ensure that he did not wake his daughter. Karen was then dragged into the garage where the blow to her head was delivered. Placing Karen in either his vehicle or hers, David drove 3 miles to Bledsoe Cemetery, where he dragged her into the vines. The route that David allegedly took that night was recreated by detectives as they sought to establish a timeline. Investigators speculated that when David returned to the house, he devised a plan to make it appear that Karen had left on her own in the night, only to have her plans foiled by a flat tire. He took an old screw from somewhere in the garage and hammered it into the Nissan's tire and let out the air. Then, at roughly 4:40 a.m., when Karen's phone disconnected from the home extender, he drove the Nissan a distance far enough from the house that she could have conceivably gotten a flat tire, but not so far that he could not walk back. On the way, he disposed of her Verizon cell phone in the wooded area. Karen's second secret phone, however, must have been hidden in the downstairs bedroom. He searched for this device, making a mess of the room in the process, and then went through its contents, including accessing the voicemail 5 hours later at just before 10 a.m. Afterwards, knowing where he left the first phone, he went back out to the woods and dropped the Voyager cell phone next to it. Investigators then surmised that he must have cleaned the garage with the bleach found at the scene before calling Karen's friends, pretending to be concerned for her whereabouts. In July 2023, over a decade after Karen's death, David Swift was arrested in Alabama and extradited back to Tennessee following an indictment for first-degree murder. It was unclear what, if anything, had been uncovered in the intervening years that convinced the county prosecutors to finally break charges. No new witnesses had come forward. Analysis of the cellular data had not advanced since 2011, nor had forensic teams come up with any new DNA evidence.
People see this and they think, it's been almost 11 years. What was the thing that made things change? What made them all of a sudden indict him? What can you tell us?
I can't talk about specifics of the case, so I can't at this time divulge any information about that.
When the trial commenced, the state presented a largely circumstantial case. They called friends of Karen's to testify to David's controlling behavior and to instances in which they believed he had been stalking his wife.
Tell me about other examples you saw of his controlling behavior.
He came over to the house and told her to come home.
How often did that happen?
Almost every time she came over to the house. If it was after dark. She drinks a lot. She parties a lot. She's never home. She's with Kathy and Bill. She's involved in this sex ring. She wanted to see other men, you know, just.
Did he have anything good to say about her?
Just that he hopes she's okay. I mean.
Is that it?
That's it.
A neighbor of Bill and Kathy's told the court that she had discovered David in her backyard spying on the Bonas household. David had told investigators that this same neighbor had invited him to come see what they were up to.
One night I had come out, it was real late, probably around 11, 12 at night, and I was gonna walk over to probably Kathy's house. I was on the side of my house, and I walked out, and there was a man standing there, and I screamed. It scared me. And I looked, and it was David standing there. And I said, David? And he said, shh. I said, what? And he said, I'm trying, I have a restraining order. I can't be in Kathy and Bill Bona's yard. And I wanted to know if I could use your lot or inside your yard to watch over there.
And what did you tell him?
I said, there's the fence.
You said what?
There's the fence.
Okay, so you allowed him to go and look?
I said, there's the fence.
Okay.
I was scared.
Okay.
Kathy Bona recounted repeated instances of David's controlling behavior, calling Karen excessively, following her on her errands, and confronting Karen over her alleged partying with them.
Oh, well, there was one night we were hanging out on my porch and he called 25 times.
In what period of time?
30 minutes.
Okay. Was that typical?
That was a little excessive that day, but it was typical for him to call often, yes.
Okay. Do you know why he did that? Why he was calling so often?
Because he just wanted to know where she was. He yelled at her in the parking lot and like slammed his hand against the car window and was accusing her of things, that she was sneaking around and doing all kinds of things. You're sneaking around, you're lying, you're doing this, and was very angry that he had, found her car in Walmart and then she had gotten back to it and didn't know where she was.
Okay. Did he say anything to you?
Okay, Chad, let me ask you this. Obviously, he's not justified for killing this chick, but is he justified for acting like a maniac if he's this broad's actually going around just fucking around on him? And he's sitting there just going crazy? Like, obviously he's not justified for killing her, but is he justified for trying to figure out if this broad's cheating on him? Because by the sounds of it, she was.
He was mainly yelling at her and she was trying to de-escalate the situation because, again, she didn't like me to be uncomfortable.
Because, like, obviously, this guy's, like, crazy as shit. Going and killing his wife like that, that's just crazy as fuck. But, I mean, if someone was cheating on me, I'd want to know, so I wouldn't be wasting my time, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be, like, stalking him and shit. But if I had my suspicion, I'd definitely be like, fuck, you posted up with Jamal? Shit. Let me stop by his house one night when you out fucking,
So she was like, just go on, it's fine, And so he didn't really say anything to me. He was just yelling at her.
Okay. How'd you feel after that incident?
That again creeped me out because I knew that he knew where her car was. So he had been watching her or stalking her.
Was there another time that Karen was at your house and that Mr. Swift showed up?
Yes.
Okay. What did she do?
She was, again, feeling a little lightheaded, had a towel wrapped around her and laid down on the other side of the bed in a towel wrapped around her on top of the covers.
Okay. You were under the covers?
I was.
And was she under the covers with you?
She was not.
Okay. And did Mr. Swift show up at your house?
Yes.
What was his demeanor when he showed up?
Well, when he came into the room that we were both in, he was, again, enraged.
Okay. And what did he do?
He accused her of lots of things, sleeping with me, being a whore, being drunk, lots of things, was very angry.
Fucking hooey.
A considerable amount of testimony focused on the events that took place at the Bonas on Kathy's 40th birthday. Bill Bona told the jury that he came across Karen naked and passed out in his living room. He, along with a friend of hers, covered Karen with a towel and called David to collect her. Karen's friend Robin told a different version of events.
Did you see Karen Swift leave the hot tub and go into the house?
I did. I witnessed her get up. She looked to me as if she was hot and woozy kind of feeling. And I saw her go inside. And it wasn't but a few minutes later, I saw Mr. Bona go in as well.
Can I ask this? Was Miss Swift, was she wearing her outfit or?
That's vaguely something I'm trying to remember. I know when I walked in and I witnessed her laying on the floor, she didn't have anything on her. I walked in, I said, "What's going on?" And I got a towel and immediately covered her up. And I said, "Go get her husband right now."
Well, when you walked in, what did you see?
I saw him standing over her, gawking with a creepy look on his face.
Was she clothed or did she have a towel on her?
I put a towel on her.
Did you see Mr. Bona put a towel and cover her before you walked in?
No.
The prosecution also argued that David had been caught in multiple lies. They found the phone number for Karen's allegedly secret second cell phone on David's call log. He had phoned the Voyager device multiple times prior to Karen's death, though he told investigators that he had only just discovered that she had it. In addition, he had stated that he had been asleep from 2 a.m. when he saw Karen come home.
Just because he just discovered it doesn't mean he didn't call it. They never asked if he called it.
Until roughly 10 a.m. Computer and phone activity showed someone was up, downloading and viewing photos of Karen around 3 a.m., including accessing multiple photos of her new tattoo. The widower was also found to have accessed dating websites and women's profiles over 250 times in the days following his wife's disappearance. A physical therapist who treated David for his knee injury in the weeks after she went missing testified that David would have been physically capable of dragging a body. Indeed, a neighbor who loaned the Swifts hay for a hayride testified that on October 29th, David helped him move hay bales, each weighing about 65 pounds, without the use of crutches. The next day, however, at the police station, he could not move around without them. For Karen to have left on her own, the state argued that a handful of illogical things must be true. She likely would have had plans to meet someone, but there is no evidence of these arrangements. She must have moved both Ashley from her bed, as well as Keely from her husband's bed before leaving the house that night. But why would she risk waking David if she was sneaking out? And finally, toxicology results showed that she had taken a Benadryl before going to sleep. Why would she have taken a sleep aid if she intended to leave the house less than 3 hours later?
We can surmise by the toxicology report and the bottle of PM cold medicine and a half-empty water bottle by her bed, she took a Benadryl and went to sleep. Benadryl on top of alcohol, what did Dr. Ross say about that? Greatly enhanced sedative effects. Karen, after all of that, the defense will have you believe, gets up to meet someone on 2.5 hours of sleep.
The defense poked holes in the state's theory. They pointed out that David required further surgery on his injured leg. Daughter Ashley, now an adult, testified that she was certain that it was her mother that moved her to her sister's room in the night, not her father.
Yes, I remember her moving me in the middle of the night to my sister's room, in the bed with her.
In the bed with your sister?
Yes.
Is that on the same floor as your mother's?
It is. It's the bedroom right beside.
Do you recall it being your mother that moved you?
I know it was her. It was just instinct to know what your mother feels like and how that felt.
Okay. That's your best recollection?
Through her goddamn teeth. Holy shit. That's sad.
Yes, sir.
The weakest area of the case against David Swift was the lack of physical evidence in the house, the vehicles, and on his person. They had not been able to link the rusty screw from the SUV's tire to the Swift garage. There was no murder weapon, so they theorized that David had used his foot, yet he had been visibly injured.
There's no evidence of a struggle in that room. You heard her daughter, who was there, and their son, who came the next morning. It didn't look out of the ordinary. Is it an untidy place? There was a headboard and everything was tested. There's nothing indicated that anything occurred in that room, I submit. The prosecutor is saying to you that he took her out in the garage with a knee injury on his left leg and stomped her head in the garage. He's not going to do it with his injured leg, I would think. And is it possible that if he's going to use his right leg, that he can put enough pressure on his injured leg and stomp her head in, and she's just going to sit there and take it, a strong woman? There's no physical evidence in the garage. There's no blood in the garage. They imply that later they went out there and there's a picture showing bleach near a pool. This is October. Pools get closed. Bleach is used for pools. You heard?
When the jury returned from their deliberations, they surprised many in the courtroom. David Swift was found not guilty of first-degree and second-degree murder, as well as attempted first and second-degree murder. On the count of voluntary manslaughter, however, the jury could not reach a verdict and told the judge that they were hopelessly deadlocked.
Is there an agreement, or has the jury found the defendant not guilty of voluntary manslaughter?
There was no agreement.
No agreement? Is that the level of the offense at which there is disagreement?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct, ma'am?
Throughout the trial, David's defense implied, with objections from the state, that the murder charges were politically motivated. The investigation had failed to uncover any direct evidence of his guilt, yet the sheriff and district attorney, both facing re-election, felt pressured to pursue the case anyway.
It's very difficult because I think juries like to see direct evidence. They like to see DNA, blood, fingerprints. So, it's a uphill climb from the very beginning. So it's always difficult to put those cases together.
With the manslaughter verdict undecided, the county was left with the decision of whether to try this charge once more, and they have opted to push forward. David's attorney has argued that the new indictment is illegal, that the statute of limitations on the manslaughter charge has now passed. But on July 11th, 2024, a judge refused to dismiss the charges.
I think if I could know for sure, if I could know who to be angry at, I think I could start to heal. But as it is, it's just an open wound every day.
Yeah.
People just don't know what you live through every day. And, like for 6 weeks, we didn't even know where she was.
Right.
6 weeks, we didn't. And it was agony every day. Agony every day. And then after they did find her, it was like, okay, who did this? And it still hurts every day to know that somebody took my baby, killed her, and took her down to the kudzu and threw her out like a rag doll.
Yeah.
It just breaks my heart.
The date for a new trial is yet to be set. David Swift is also facing charges in Alabama for stalking his second wife, who has since divorced him.
That's pretty sus. That's pretty sus, boys. I don't know about that guy. I think the court failed that one.
Sometime between the hours of 1:30 and 4:30 a.m. on Saturday, October 21st, 2023, 40-year-old Samantha Wall was stabbed to death inside of her townhouse in Detroit, Michigan. A neighbor discovered Sam lying on a walkway outside of her home later that morning, where she had managed to crawl out to seek help before succumbing to her injuries. The investigation would find that at least one other identifiable person had been outside of Sam's townhouse that night. The question was whether they had found the killer or simply a reluctant witness. Hi there, I'm Kevin and welcome to Just Thought Lounge. Today's case is complicated. It is either an example of exceptional and thorough investigative work or a failure of the justice system. It may be both. Let's take a look. The neighborhood of Lafayette Park, east of downtown Detroit, is composed of two large blocks of residential housing with a greenway, a secluded green enclave, running directly through it. Just west of the greenway is Joliet Place, a stretch of mostly townhouse units next to an elementary school. Around 6 a.m. on the morning of October 21st, 2023, local resident Kevin Mull, who was caring for a friend's dog, stepped out from his front door to let the pup do his business.
I didn't even get in.
At that time, it was dark outside. Kevin could barely see what appeared to be the figure of a person lying with their back towards him, legs tucked in, on the sidewalk of the unit.
Yeah, let me turn this down, but if I get 650 termites, then yeah. Then yeah.
Across the way. There was no movement. The person wore no shoes. Reaching towards the huddled body, Kevin nudged the person's back, hoping for a reaction, but found none. What he did find was that what little skin was exposed on the individual had turned a shade of blue. Kevin knew with certainty that the woman on the walkway in front of him was dead. He and his wife Jessica called emergency services from their home across the street. Jessica would later learn that the body found by her husband had been a good neighbor and friend, Samantha Wall.
My husband was just out walking our dog, and he told me there is a person, potentially a body, laying on the sidewalk. He attempted to nudge the person, and they didn't move, and there's blood present, and the person's just laying there. Is it only your block?
On my block.
Property, yes, it's on my neighbor's sidewalk.
Something.
How old does the patient look?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I cannot, the way that this person is laying, I cannot see their face unless I, move the body. And all curled up in a ball, and the person's barefoot, and there's a lot of blood on the sidewalk around. I look somewhat blue.
City of Detroit patrol officers Preston Q and Eric Dowd received the call at about 6:30 a.m. and responded to the scene roughly 20 minutes later. EMS had already reached the townhouses at Joliet Place before they arrived. Medics checked for a pulse, but it was far too late. On the ground, only steps from her home, was 40-year-old Samantha Wall. An autopsy would later confirm that she had sustained 8 stab wounds to her head and neck, mostly from behind. Detective Darren Zhu followed a trail of blood from the sidewalk where Kevin had found her, leading back to Sam's front door, which sat open. From the state of the ground floor, it was obvious that the altercation that had led to Sam's death took place inside of the townhouse. The living room was in a state of disorder. A pool of red in the entrance hallway marked a location where she had likely collapsed and perhaps laid for a time. In the kitchen, a fruit bowl had been knocked to the floor, suggesting that this room had been the location of some part of the struggle. Despite stains on the stairwell leading to the basement, the lower level was not deemed part of the crime scene. Similarly, the upper level, consisting of Sam's bedroom and guest bed, showed no indication of a disturbance. Her cell phone and iPhone was located on the ground level just underneath the sofa in her living room. There were small but distinguishable smudges on the screen. Later forensic analysis found a likely footprint impression on a living room pillow. It had fallen to the floor along with similar items. Based on the spatter analysis, experts determined that the mess in the living room occurred either during or shortly after the attack. In addition to the impression left on a throw pillow, analysts identified multiple footprints at the scene, thought to be made by a bare foot. These were therefore attributed
Look
to
at that
Samantha.
painting right there. This painting right here looks like the guy from The Incredibles, you know, the teacher. You guys see that? You guys see that right here, right where my mouse is, right up in the top center of the screen here. Looks like the teacher from The Incredibles. I swear to God. Here, let me, teacher. Okay, you see that right there? And then look at this guy. Look at that. You telling me? Look at that. You telling me that ain't him? You telling me that ain't him, son? No way.
Fingerprints were taken throughout the scene as well. Most were of too poor quality to attempt a match. Those that were usable, again, matched back to Sam. It was a curious set of circumstances for investigators. They did not immediately rule out the possibility that Samantha had been the victim of a robbery, but it appeared quite unlikely. Her wallet, which contained cash, as well as her purse and car keys, sat in plain view on a bench in the entranceway. A credit card was visible on a side table, and Sam's laptop and other electronics appeared untouched elsewhere in the house. Then there was the nature of the attack itself. A violent stabbing, which often, but certainly not always, indicates a crime of passion.
Can you speak to anything that could have been involved in why she was killed or murdered, a motive? Can you speak to anything in that regard?
We have to be very, very cautious as to what information we share. There are some very intricate details about this case that, if revealed, could really damage what we're trying to accomplish. There are some facts that are known only to our suspect, so I can't get into causation right now, or what he or she may feel was that. But more to come on that at a later date. Right now, what we want to do is get every bit of information we can clarified, analyzed, the evidence that we have analyzed, so we can put more information out to the community to help us identify and bring the suspect to justice.
Thank you, Chief.
Samantha Wall's death came as a devastating blow to everyone who had been fortunate enough to know her in life. Family later wrote that they were forced to say a wrenching goodbye to a woman who had lived a life of large ideas and small acts of kindness. Friends recalled that Sam had always fought against injustice, motivated by the principle of tikkun olam, Hebrew for healing the world. The concept of fixing society's ills or mending the world was a defining principle of both her faith and actions. As a teenager, Sam volunteered for a group called the Friendship Circle, which mentored children with developmental disabilities. It is now a successful nonprofit that aids and supports 3,000 Metro Detroiters with disabilities and their families. After college, she spent 4 summers working at a rape crisis center. More recently, Sam wrote for the Michigan Daily, focusing on social justice issues. In her spare time, she continued to advocate for progressive causes. She ran at least a mile a day, rain or shine, loved music, especially opera and classical, and she had acquired an extensive book collection. When she died, Sam was the president of the Isaac Agri downtown synagogue in Detroit. Notably, Sam had helped start an interfaith forum where Muslims and Jews could find common ground. The nature of Sam's advocacy seemed always to be motivated first and foremost by kindness.
She truly believed in repairing the world around her, making the world a better place. And in her 40 years, Detroit is better, the world is better, because Sam Wall was in it. So she'll be
How
missed.
billionaires think that one bad day be looking like? They lose like
The night before she was
0.1% of their
discovered,
wealth, and
Sam
they're
had
like,
attended a friend's wedding
all right,
not
we gotta
far
go
from her
fire
home.
someone right now.
Guests at the occasion recalled that she was in good spirits.
That
They
guy that made me
reported
the
no
coffee the other
suspicious
day,
activity.
get him the fuck out of
Sam's
here.
phone data
No
showed her
longer
driving
needed.
home from the wedding at 12:30 a.m. Security cameras from the nearby primary school, Chrysler Elementary, captured a portion of the parking lot next to the townhouses. The camera showed a vehicle entering the lot at the same time as Sam's phone GPS data. The sensor on the front door of her house was activated 1 minute later. Sam had returned home safely. The ADT home security system showed movement in the living room from 12:32 a.m. onwards for roughly 1 hour. The back door opened for a time, likely for a quick vape, said friends, and was later closed and locked. The outfit that Samantha wore to the wedding was left out on her bed upstairs.
Quick vape.
Her last text message, a smiley emoji sent to a friend, was sent at 1:01 a.m. Other activity on the device, the opening and closing of applications, continued to just after 1:30. Movement inside the townhouse ceased at 1:24. At that time, the system went into idle mode, indicating that nothing had triggered a sensor in the preceding 2 to 3 minutes. If Sam had laid down at that time and remained motionless, perhaps while on her phone, the system
how's
would
it
have
going?
logged
Pretty
zero
good. Got a new
movement
job,
inside
bro.
the living
Working with
room.
the government, crushing up
The
some
next time a
racks.
sensor was triggered was at 4:20 a.m. when
Make some
movement was
good money.
captured very briefly, also in the living room.
Make some good money doing
The
that.
system went
Good
back into idle
benefits,
mode only
really good
2 minutes
benefits.
after that at 4:22.
So
There were no sensors in
can't
the front
complain.
hallway, except the one that tracked the opening and closing of her front door. Testing was undertaken weeks later, assisted by the knowledge of ADT experts. These tests determined that the system was in working order and that the sensors were accurate within 12 seconds of real time. Until the police arrived at 6:30 that morning, the sensor
33K
on
a year.
Samantha's front door showed that it had never been properly closed or locked after she had returned home at
33K this
12:31.
year.
Therefore,
After
this
taxes.
sensor gave no indication as to when the killer entered. The front door had been open all night. James Griffune, resident of Lafayette, awoke around 1:20 a.m. on the night of October 21st to whimpers from his new puppy. Wandering out into the darkness with his pup, James heard voices calling out, yelling, chanting perhaps. He was unable to discern the words. The structure of the neighborhood, according to James, with the buildings surrounding each other, created a kind of echo effect. Anyone who stood in the grassy center at ground level would have difficulty determining the direction of external noises. Even the sound of crowds cheering from Comerica Park to the west could seem as though it emanated from the east, James said. The day after Sam was found, James told law enforcement what he had heard and when he had heard it, though his description was unfortunately ambiguous. The only thing that he could definitively say was that he had heard voices in the night. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe he had heard the chanting of casino workers that were striking a few streets over. Or perhaps he had heard something relevant to the investigation into the murder of a beloved neighbor. James told Michigan State Police that he felt guilty for not reporting what he had heard much earlier.
She was killed, but like, if she was killed much later, then I just heard the strikes workers, and I'm wasting your time.
After the scream, like, how much longer did you stay outside?
A couple of minutes, and again, it wasn't like I felt like incredible guilt. Just the last 24 hours, like I really would have gone down there, but I didn't. You know, like I'm that callous, I guess at this point. Like it didn't sound to me like I never heard the word help or anything like that, and having been down here for as long as we have, I felt callous. Like it's not my problem, and I've been feeling shitty about that for 24 hours or more.
James was able to offer an exact time frame in which he heard the voices. His Garmin watch tracked everything, including his sleep patterns and the time that he had awoken to walk his puppy. The watch showed James was awake at 1:21 a.m. and tracked him walking outside for the following 6 minutes. This time period overlapped with when Sam's security system logged its last activity before going into idle mode for the first time that night at 1:24 a.m. Investigators sought leads in the case by scrutinizing every angle, including, of course, Sam Wall's personal life. The beautiful and determined 40-year-old had an active dating life, but not a particularly scandalous one. A serious relationship with ex-boyfriend Jeffrey Herbstman had blossomed from a friendship after the two had met through their synagogue 5 years earlier. They began dating in the summer of 2022 and were together for nearly a year. According to Jeff, as well as other friends of Sam's, the two split amicably in July 2023. They were no longer in regular communication with each other following the split, but had remained on good terms. Weeks passed as detectives tore through mounds of digital evidence, primarily the cameras from the school as well as others from the surrounding area, hopeful that they would spot something suspicious. However, before such a discovery could be made, in early November, the investigation saw a shocking development. Someone who had already been dismissed as a person of interest, seemingly confessed. From the parking lot of a Sheraton hotel in Kalamazoo, Jeffrey Herbstman called 911.
I'm having a full-blown panic attack. I think I need to see a psychiatrist. Do you want me to send the ambulance up to you? Yes, please. I can't do it myself. All right, tell me exactly what happened. I'm having a panic attack. I think I may be in danger of others. Listen to me. Try breathing in. Down below.
I don't think that's gonna work, man.
Police car in the area? Yeah, they just pulled up. Perfect. They're there to speak with you, okay? I'm gonna let you up so they can talk with you, okay? You can see my hands. You can see my hands. They're not there to hurt you or anything, okay? You're not in trouble. I know I'm in trouble. No, you're not in trouble.
Jeffrey was working as a data scientist for the medical technology company Stryker. On November 7th, he was in Kalamazoo for work. An hour or so after smoking cannabis and returning to his hotel room, Jeff reported experiencing what he called a psychotic break.
Hi. Can you open the door? Can you open the door for me?
I know I'm in trouble.
No, you're okay. What's going on? You can stay in the car if you want.
No.
What's going on? Wait, you sitting next to her, enter.
Turn on your body cam, please.
Yeah.
I just reported.
What's going on, sir? What's your name?
I don't remember anything.
What prompted you to call tonight? Do you have any weapons or anything on you?
No.
Okay.
No, there's a knife in the car.
Okay. Like a pocket knife or what's your knife?
Like a pocket knife.
Okay. So what's going on tonight? What are you, what's going through your mind right now?
I'm having a panic attack.
Okay.
I'm convinced that I may have murdered my girlfriend and I don't remember it.
Where does your girlfriend stay at?
Lying on the pavement, the 41-year-old explained that he could not shake the feeling that he had killed Samantha, though he had no recollection whatsoever of the crime. Objectively, he thought, he had motive because she had broken up with him, though he had understood her reasoning at the time and did not fault her for it. He told police that he had opportunity to commit the murder as well. He had been alone all night in his apartment. He could not provide an alibi. In his confused mental state, he said, "I might be trying to outsmart people."
What makes you think that you killed her?
Because I have the motive and I have the opportunity. I may be trying to outsmart people.
Where did this happen at? What's she address?
Yeah, I got it. It's Sam Wall. She's 40, white female. He doesn't have her date of birth, but He said that her phone number is in his phone.
What happened?
At the station, Jeff called his parents. They had asked around for an attorney should he need one, and he now found himself in just such a situation.
Hi, Mom.
Jeff.
This is Jeff.
Hi, Jeffrey. Where are you?
I had a panic attack and ended up in the Kalamazoo police station.
Okay.
If you could please contact that attorney for me.
Okay.
Well, Jeff, do you need medical assistance right now?
I could use a psychiatrist, yes.
Well, do you need to tell them that?
I did.
And what did they say?
They haven't said anything.
Jeffrey was held in custody. His home was searched by Detroit PD and the FBI. His car was examined by a forensic team. His phone data was extracted and his communications scrutinized. Jeff was interviewed multiple times.
Is there anything else you need right now? No. Okay. Water? Oh, you got water.
Yeah.
You need any snack? Need to use the bathroom or anything like that? You know what's going on right now? Huh?
I'm getting paid.
Give me them termites, boy.
You know what for?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as you know. Okay.
What investigators found was that Jeff was exactly where he had originally claimed to have been on the night that Sam was killed, in his apartment, alone. There was not a spot of blood, DNA, or other physical evidence linking him to the crime scene. Cameras in the area did not show him driving into or exiting the area of Sam's building. Jeff was suffering from depression, a condition that he had sought treatment for in the final months of his relationship with Sam. At that time, he underwent 3 months of transcranial magnetic stimulation, as he referenced between incoherent cries to the Kalamazoo police.
You think that you may have killed her?
I think they're having some kind of psychotic break.
Okay.
Doing transcranial magnetic stimulation.
He had found him down using the weapons. He just crawled out of his car into this position. He's from Detroit and says that he may have killed his girlfriend.
This treatment having failed, his medication was adjusted. On November 7th, Jeff was on day 2 of a double dosage of Auvelity prescribed to him by his doctor. The antidepressant comes with the potential for significant adverse side effects. These include panic attacks and delusions. Investigators determined that his reaction to the high dosage of the drug, coupled with the grief of losing a woman that he loved, were the cause of his episode, as well as his false confession. Jeff Herbstman did not kill Sam Wall. He was released from custody. They were back to square one.
We do want justice. We don't want them to arrest someone who didn't do it. So, there's something about our justice system that it's thorough. And so it's ups and downs and it's frustrating, but I'm glad they're being careful and they're doing what they can do.
Based on the state of Sam's living room as well as her phone activity, Detroit police believed that she had fallen asleep on her couch when the system went into the idle mode at 1:24 a.m. They determined, therefore, that the second motion capture a few hours later, at 4:20, marked the time of the murder. So when officers tasked with reviewing security camera footage from the area spotted an unidentified male figure in the parking lot outside of Sam's building at 4 a.m., they believed they had a strong lead. Few people were spotted on the cameras in the neighborhood throughout the night, which made this figure at 4 a.m. of particular interest. No other sightings were made in close proximity to the suspected time that the crime took place. They were able to track this individual's movements across the city by utilizing private security camera footage. What they found was that the man had first passed through Lafayette at around 2 a.m., only to circle back to Joliet Place at about 4 o'clock. Along the way, the individual was routinely caught trying to open the doors of vehicles. When he was able to, the suspect leaned inside and removed items. Digital analysts tracked the figure back to his originating address at the Alexandrine apartment complex, the location that he also returned to after roughly 5 hours of walking the city streets. Based on this abundance of video evidence, investigators reached out to T-Mobile, requesting that the cellular provider cross-reference their client's location data with the time and location of the crime. They aligned each cellular match to the area where the figure was caught on camera. Investigators were able to narrow down the name of the individual who had been in the parking lot at 2 a.m. and again 2 hours later. Michael Jackson Bolanos was the manager at a Detroit cafe and produced music in his free time. His girlfriend, a woman named Tierra White, lived at the Alexandrine Apartments in Midtown. Michael also had a history of vehicle theft. Although sections of the footage is grainy, some of it nearly impossible to view without enhancements from specialist equipment, portions clearly showed Michael trying to open car doors, leaning into vehicles, and occasionally removing items. In doing so, he inadvertently did the police reviewing the poor quality recordings a favor by giving them a distinct item to view and track. At 3:05 a.m. at the White and McDougal intersection, Michael took a white bag from inside a vehicle, subsequently carrying it with him at his side for hours afterwards. Though he dressed all in black, the bag was a visible indicator linking his movements from camera to camera. From Spinnaker Lane, where he climbed a wall into a restricted parking area, to Jefferson, where he is clearly seen carrying the bag, and then to East Lafayette, where he walked in front of a vehicle carrying a light object.
Fucking dumber than
that
shit.
Vehicle, a white SUV, was found on the morning of October 21st to have a flat tire. Multiple punctures had been made straight through the rubber. These were roughly the same size as the stab wounds sustained by Sam Wall. The dash camera of a responding officer captured the tire slowly deflating over the course of the morning. It seemed the tire of this nearby vehicle had been slashed in close proximity in time to the murder. They also noted in footage prior to 4 a.m. that Michael was wearing a pair of what appeared to be surgical gloves. There is a gap in footage tracking Michael between 4 a.m. outside of Sam's building until 4:23 a.m. when he is captured a quarter mile away on Monroe Street on a bridge running over the I-375. Police believed that it was over this roughly 20-minute span that Sam had been killed. When Michael was spotted again, he no longer appeared to be wearing his gloves. Detroit PD and Michigan State Police performed mobile surveillance on Michael Jackson Bolanos for weeks, hoping to gain further leads. On November 30th, he was pulled over for a standard traffic stop, at which time officers requested that he come into the station to answer a few questions.
All good? All good. All right. Tell you what I'm going to do. I got to do something real quick, so I'm going to have you sit in my car. But if you sit in my car, I got to run you real quick. So set your phone down right there. Hey, why you what? Yeah, set your phone down right there. Yeah, what I do, bro? Yeah, you're okay. You're doing fine. You're being real cooperative, actually. Yeah, why am I sitting yeah.
The arresting officer patted Michael down before taking him into the station. But upon entering the interrogation room, Michael emptied his pockets onto the table, dropping an ID, a piece of paper, and a knife. He claimed that it was the only one that he owned. He kept it on hand to cut seatbelts in case of an emergency, he said.
Alright.
When Michael sat down to speak with detectives, he believed that he was being questioned in relation to stolen property. He was not informed that he had been under mobile surveillance as a murder suspect, nor that he was speaking with homicide detectives. Michael did not request an attorney.
So I told you why they brought you here, right? I asked you for some detectives about some property, so I'm here today to answer your questions. Appreciate you.
Michael eventually provided 4 different versions of his activities on the night of the murder. At first, he insisted that he did not steal from any vehicles. With his previous convictions, another charge was likely to result in a lengthy prison term.
I don't commit no crimes. I just want to work. I'm a manager. I don't do nothing, bro. I literally am on the right track, sir.
After being presented with still images from some of the security footage, Michael conceded reluctantly that he took photos of cars for others to steal, posting the photos and videos with their locations to a Telegram chat. Repeatedly, Michael told detectives that he never did anything violent.
The apartment on Alexandria, right?
Yeah, that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we were able to follow you from your apartment all over downtown.
All over downtown?
Yes, downtown.
But I was not hitting no cars. I'm really like homeless. I walk around.
Mm-hmm.
I have not hit no cars or nothing. Bro, I'm not hitting no cars on my soul.
On your soul? Homeboy sold his soul.
And this is you leaving an area where you were empty-handed and then coming back out with a bag.
From stores. This was a store. This is a store bag.
Yeah, it is. You got this after going into a parking structure.
I'm taking the tug.
I didn't
taking
even
the tug, but don't worry.
No parking structure. I have not hit no cars. I do not hit cars. I don't do that.
Crucially, on multiple occasions, Michael stated that he did not encounter anything out of the ordinary when wandering the city on the night of October 21st. Had he been a potential witness to Samantha Wall's murder, seen or heard anything relevant while he was near to the building, he was not saying.
When you're over there, do you see anything out of the way or anything out of normal?
I didn't see nothing or nothing out of the way or normal.
Okay.
You guys say like I'm just hitting cars or whatever. I'm not doing nothing out of normal. I didn't see nothing.
So there was an incident in one of the condos, right?
What incident?
There was somebody got into it with somebody in one of the condos.
I didn't get into it with nobody in no condos. I don't have no interaction with nobody.
If Michael had entered Sam's open door at 4:20 when her ADT system logged movement and killed her, then he would have had to run the quarter mile to reach the bridge. Estimates by law enforcement determined that he needed to cover that distance in 70 seconds. Michael stated that he had, in fact, run from the lot, but in response to spotting what he thought was a security vehicle.
You see the security car, and that's why you ran.
Don't know nothing. I didn't see nothing out the way. Besides that, I took off running.
Why take off running though if you don't pull on an angle?
Because, bro, I'm not doing nothing. Man, I don't know, man.
Detectives told Michael that his phone location data placed him inside Sam's house. They also told him that they had video showing him exiting her building at the same time that Sam's security system logged movement. This evidence did not exist.
Comparing your phone to this video, to her ADT.
So who the fuck is her?
What was our houses in the area?
I did not go in no houses.
Well, you went in one at least.
I didn't go in no house. How can I go in a house?
You tell me?
Tell you what, I did not go in no house, bro. I'm not lying to you. I'm not trying to make nothing up or nothing. I did not go into nobody's house. This is the only place I went into. My girl's apartment. Left there and came back there.
That makes you breaker. We see you, right?
I didn't go in nobody's door.
Well, maybe it's coincidence.
You said a motion detector. You see
the motion detector goes off, right? Then we see you come out.
Right? You see who? You. You see not this. You see like how you see right here me come out of the house?
So, yes, we see you come out of there. So we're going backwards. Because at that point, we didn't know where you came from.
I never came out of those fucking houses, bro.
After a detective handed Michael his card, revealing they worked in the homicide division, the conversation shifted. Michael admitted to hitting handles or trying to steal from unlocked vehicles. He denied entering any homes. He emphatically denied any part in Sam's murder.
Do you know where you're at now?
I'm downtown, right across from Indiana.
But you know what? The office you're in.
Oh. No, hell no. I didn't kill nobody. Hell no. I don't even get down like that. They tell me property. That's it.
When a search warrant was obtained, police located a handful of curious items. including more than one knife that Michael had claimed not to own. The match to a murder weapon was not made, however. They also found the black North Face jacket that he had been wearing on October 21st. On the back of the right sleeve, trace amounts of blood were detected. Forensic testing later revealed these small stains were a match to Samantha Wall. Similarly, specks of Sam's blood were located on the backpack that Michael was seen wearing home on the night of the murder.
Since October the 1st, the day that Samantha Heather Wall was killed, there has been a painstaking, diligent, and tireless work done by the Detroit Police Department and my office, oftentimes around the clock, and I commend them for that. Every known lead, possible suspect, forensic submissions, and other investigative tools were employed and deployed consistently by the Detroit Police Department. So today I'm going to announce these charges. We have charged Michael Manuel Jackson Balonis. Count 1, homicide, felony murder.
In July of 2024, 29-year-old Michael Jackson Balonis went to trial for first-degree murder, home invasion, and lying to a peace officer.
Here we go. Appreciate that, brother. What's up,
The defense
dude?
poked holes across the
Chilling.
prosecution's theory of the crime.
Trying to get a recolor for my gear here. Here, I'll show you what it looks like. This is what my shit will be looking like. I'll be looking like a warrior soon, you know? It's gonna look dope.
Defense attorney Brian Brown argued that the murder had to have been a crime of passion. Sam was found with bruising around the eye, forehead, elbows, and knees. The attack had been personal, Brown said, and it had not been over quickly. The defense also played a recording from earlier in the night from Chrysler Elementary's security camera, which showed a man running in the parking lot just before 1:30 a.m.
Termites.
That man was never identified.
She was stabbed 8 times. In the neck, in the back of the head, in the back of the neck. To me, that would indicate a crime of passion. This wasn't just some random person walking into her house trying to steal anything.
Brown argued that the proposed timeline was impossible. Based on the disturbance at the scene, stretching from the kitchen where he speculated that the altercation began, through the living room and into the hallway, there was no way that whoever stabbed Sam had entered and left the house in under a minute, as indicated by the ADT system. The attack must have occurred within an hour of her return home, he said. The highest concentration of blood at the scene was by the front entrance. Brown posited that Sam had passed out in the hallway for a period of a few hours before regaining consciousness. He identified outlines in the blood that could have been footprints pointing away from the entryway. Sam may have awoken in the hallway and sought out her phone in the living room. Perhaps she was unable to locate it or properly use it. This movement would have set off the living room sensor at 4:20 a.m. before she crawled outside to seek help, ultimately collapsing where she was found by Kevin Mull at 6 a.m.
Now the prosecutor wants you to believe that allegedly my client went in there at 4:20, stabbed her 8 times, tussled with her from room to room, and then there's no more the system went into idle mode at 4:22. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, after all the evidence is submitted, we want you to use your logic and reasoning skills to realize that
I want this man
the
as my
time
lawyer.
frame that they say that this happened in is virtually impossible. Virtually impossible for him to come in there and stab her that many times, beat her up in less than a minute, and then be seen on camera at 4:23, not 4:24, at 4:23, walking in front of Greektown Casino, walking towards individuals who were outside.
If the murder took place earlier in the night, the killer could not be Michael Jackson Bolanos. The defense argued that Jeffrey Herbstman was the likely killer.
He had an ex-boyfriend. And you will hear testimony from him, as indicated by the prosecutor, a Jeff Herbstman, who called the police in a guilt-stricken situation where he indicated that he thought he had killed him.
In support of the alternative timeline, the defense pointed to neighborhood resident and witness James Griffoon, who had heard loud voices around 1:30 a.m. James described the noises as repetitive and not distressing. He very likely heard striking casino workers from a few blocks over, but he could not be certain.
1:30 or around 1:30 in the morning, and that at that time I didn't hear anything that would indicate a murder was happening. I didn't hear screaming or anything like that. The neighborhood was quiet, but that I did hear that sound, and I didn't know
But
if
do
the
you
police
know
would be
roughly how
interested in
long
hearing about an amplified voice coming from bouncing off the bill. I had no idea, but I wanted to give the police as much information.
I have no idea, bro. I didn't pack a punch
just to
until
see
around
if-
150.
It wasn't my job to put together the information. I just wanted to give
I
them
didn't pack a punch till like
what
around
information I had
150.
about being out at that time.
I have no idea.
And, it was.
I'd be there for a while.
Like calm and I would say bored. Like there was an element of it that was like dun dun dun, dun like don't go to the casino, kind of like that kind of a thing. Like it sounded repetitive.
And could you hear the words?
Yeah, I don't know. You're gonna be there for a little while.
From the voice, any words like made out?
I honestly I can't say that I did. Like I might have been able to guess what some of the words, but I don't want to guess.
You can fix that. Fix what?
About anything specifically.
Did it sound like there was a violent confrontation?
Got half hour rounds
Not
past
at-
110, which is
not
nuts because 254 is less than that.
Jeffrey Herbstman described to the jury in
Actually, I'm
detail
thinking
what
about
had
it now.
occurred
I
on the
took it
night
down
of his
on around
911 call.
115. So
He had
I
returned
went,
to his
if I took
hotel
it
room in
down
Kalamazoo
before round
and began
75,
listening
I'd
to a
just
podcast
restart.
when his
I
mind
took it
began
down
racing
around
and his thoughts
115,
became
and then I
distressing.
went from 115 to like 125
Began to
without
feel
going and breaking quick revive.
abnormal while
At
listening to
125, I
podcasts.
went
My
and got
thoughts
quick
began
revive,
racing.
and then like the rounds were like
They soon
like,
became.
It took me like 40
what I would
hours.
describe as uncontrollable.
It took me
that
like 40
I couldn't
hours.
stop worrying
and
about
I had like
things.
box patch too, so I just got like great luck, you know.
Initially, it was work related. I couldn't stop worrying about that I had
So,
brought
yeah,
the
you're gonna be there for a while.
wrong clothes to work. That I
You won't
wasn't
be
going
there
to make a
for
good
a
impression.
while.
I was worrying about
It took
having
me
to
like
meet
here.
with,
Let's look
the
at my
director
round
of the
162.
program,
Let's see what my last
and then my thoughts began to focus around Sam's
Let's
death.
see what the last round took.
And
And what specifically, what sort of direction did your thoughts go in with regard to Sam?
I began to believe that I was that I was responsible for her death, that I had somehow killed her and didn't remember doing it, and I couldn't shake that feeling, and it was disturbing to the extreme.
So do you still have those thoughts today?
No.
Did you actually do anything to try to outsmart the police or anything like that?
No, I tried to be as helpful as possible for the police.
Friends of Sam's testified that her breakup with Jeff was unexceptional. The two had cared for each other deeply, but had not been a great fit as a couple. Sam had never expressed any concerns relating to his behavior. Jeff had never shown any violent tendencies. Sam and others who knew Jeff had never questioned his good character.
What did you try to change?
I tried to call her more. She wanted more physical touching, so I tried that. I
don't even have
brought
the
her
time for
flowers.
round
I
setup.
apologized.
And she rejected all of
But
that.
it took
Despite
me
you doing all of those
39
different
hours essentially.
Actions, she still rejected you, didn't she?
I think reject is a
Like 39
a strong
hours
word.
essentially.
She didn't embrace you back into her arms and y'all lived happy ever after. That didn't happen, did it?
We did get back together, but ultimately
World record's like
it-
10 hours slower, so.
Correct.
Yes.
Lots of room for improvement, you know
To
what I mean?
Sam's family and friends, it seemed that
Yeah, lots
Jeff's
of room
mental
for
health
improvement there.
struggles were being weaponized by Michael Jackson Bolano's defense team. However the defense's tactics were characterized, it seemed to be effective. Brian Brown hammered Jeff about the statements that he made to police, and whether he was in fact motivated to confess to the murder by the guilt he felt over committing the crime.
When I was sitting in that room, I was trying to understand what had gone on to cause me this utterly abnormal behavior that I had never experienced before, had never experienced since, and I believe was caused by an adverse reaction to this medication.
Now, when you say adverse behavior that you've never experienced, are you talking about the actions that happened on October the 20th? Those actions?
No.
Is that what you were thinking about?
No.
Oh, you wasn't thinking about that at all? That didn't cross your mind at all? You weren't replaying in your mind anything about October the 20th leading into the 21st at all that time you were sitting in that police station? Is that what you're saying? You didn't think about it at all?
Again, if you listen to that tape, I have zero recollection of anything that happened related to those events.
Yeah, fuck knockdown totem, dude. That's my general synopsis.
Okay. Do you
I hate
always
that, man.
just make things up that
With a
didn't happen?
passion.
No.
Okay. So you're saying that this is the only time that you can remember that you made up something?
This is the only time that I was having an adverse reaction to a medication.
Michael Jackson Bolanos took the stand in his defense. He admitted lying to police repeatedly about stealing from cars on the night of the murder. He acknowledged that the video evidence, in conjunction with his phone data, more or less tracked his movements accurately across the city. But he maintained that he never entered anyone's home. At just after 4 a.m., when he was captured in the Joliet Place parking lot, he did encounter Sam Wall, he said. Just like Kevin Mull, he had spotted a figure lying on the ground. He too chose to approach her.
I did.
And what, if anything, did you do when you approached?
I touched the person's neck to see if they were okay.
Okay. And was the person okay? Did they respond to you?
They wasn't okay.
Okay. And you said you touched their neck?
Yes.
Do you know which hand you might have used?
My right hand.
Why are you sure that you used your hand?
Because I remember.
Because I remember.
And did you
Great.
do anything?
That's great. I like it. That's very convincing.
I just
because I
checked the neck,
remembered.
put my hand kind of like in between right here. No air, no like breath or nothing. And once I realized that I just touched the dead person, I just grabbed the bag and I left.
Okay. And what did it feel like? What did the body feel like?
What a genius.
Cold and like crusty.
There is no DNA, fingerprints, or other physical evidence placing Michael inside Sam's home, nor is there camera footage showing him entering or exiting the building. The blood found on his sleeve and backpack, based on his testimony, was easily explained. He had leaned over and touched her with his right hand, which could have resulted in very small bloodstains on his right sleeve and backpack. This was not, of course, the story that he had told police. The state also played recorded audio of a phone conversation he had with girlfriend Tiara following his arrest, in which she told him that she had washed his jacket before police found it.
It never even washed the jacket, bro. It was already how it was. If it washed the jacket, bro, it wouldn't have been nothing on the jacket. Like, y'all so stupid. That's why
it had been washed. It has, and I expressed that.
After Tiara made that statement on the recorded phone line, Michael promptly hung up. He called back moments later stating, "Don't say nothing. I don't want to hear what you got to say about the jacket." There were also apparent inconsistencies with Michael's testimony, including an assertion that he ran from the scene out of fear for how it would look if he was the person who discovered Sam's body.
Well, when I got close enough after I had touched the person, I could tell it was a female by the amount of hair.
Okay. Could you tell
Like,
their
guys can't
race?
have long hair now?
No.
Okay.
Man, this shit
when
is
I
so
realized she
slow.
was
We
dead,
need, like,
I wanted nothing to do with the entire situation. I'm a black guy out in the middle of the night breaking into cars, and I find myself standing in front of a dead white woman. That doesn't look good at all.
Dead white woman.
Michael also testified that Sam was
This
cold
man's
to the
drip is on point. What the fuck?
touch. The state was quick to point out that if the defense theory was correct and Sam had set off the living room sensor herself at 4:20 after spending a period of time unconscious, it was impossible for her to be cold 1 minute later.
So you walk over to the person and you said that they were cold to the touch?
And crusty, yes.
Right.
And
You're sure about
crusty.
that? They were cold to the touch?
They were cold, yes, I'm sure about that. I touched them with my bare hand.
With your bare hand?
Yes.
Crusty. You said she's crusty.
When did you take your gloves off?
Before I had even got back to that parking lot.
Watch
when I had jumped down from the wall,
hours.
one of the gloves were ripped, so as I was walking, I just discarded them.
During the period of time that the defense argued Sam was attacked, she was
Look
repeatedly
at him
shown
sitting
to
there
be
like
using
with
her
a pen,
iPhone.
like he's actually
The
gonna
phone
do
was
something.
unlocked at 1:03 to access Instagram, Facebook, and other applications. This activity lasted for nearly 10 minutes. The phone was again unlocked and in use until 1:22. 2 minutes later, with no movement detected inside the house, the ADT system went to idle. Sam's iPhone, however, accessed Netflix 5 minutes later, and the orientation shifted to landscape. The state argued that the most logical explanation was that she was on the couch, motionless and watching a video, and not, as the defense suggested, in an extended struggle for her life at that time.
The entirety of the circumstances of Samantha Wool's death are consistent with this idea that this was an extremely quick killing and he got the heck out of there. They want to inject this idea that this was some kind of premeditated attack by one of her dating interests, one of her ex-boyfriends who left his phone at home, manages to elude and cloak himself and not be discovered on any video that night in the surrounding area. And then after this premeditated entering her house to kill her, doesn't even finish her off, allows her to stumble outside. That theory makes no sense. This idea that he comes up with for trial, this theory that Samantha Wool was stabbed and somehow was able to log into
Chat, what do you guys think so far? Do you think this guy did it?
Netflix?
I don't know.
That she passed out for 3 hours from these severe wounds to her neck and then just was able to get up and walk around? Just happened to be right at the moment when the defendant was out there? And yet her body is cold to the touch, even though she's still alive? This theory is his lotto ticket. Do not cash it for him. Do not cash it for him.
The defense placed emphasis on what Brian Brown characterized as the changing testimony of neighbor James, who could have heard the murder taking place.
He said he went outside around 1:20ish to walk his dog. He says he routinely goes out there around 12:30. This particular night was an hour later. He heard a very distinction of a woman originally screaming, saying, don't hit me no more. Don't stab me. A direction.
I don't think that's what he said at all in the video, actually.
From the Joliet area. He never said anything about sound bouncing off of buildings. He never said anything about thinking it was somebody striking.
Questions were also raised about the footprint analysis, or lack thereof, which could have identified the print left on the throw pillow. There was never a match made to Michael Jackson Bolanos. And the explanation provided by the state for the slashed tire was speculative. They argued that Michael stabbed the tire with his knife as practice, in preparation for entering Sam's townhouse, having spotted her open front door.
That doesn't even make sense. What are they trying to say? He was just a slasher? He's Jason? He's Freddy? Said he was just in a slashing mood? Said that he was practicing? That's absurd. Said he was practicing to see if his knife is sharp enough. So he's saying that, oh, I'm about to go into somebody's house and I don't know they're in here, because he's saying that Samantha's surprised. So if the person doesn't know that an individual is in a house, why would they practice stabbing some tires to see if their knife was sharp enough to kill somebody? That just doesn't even make sense. That just defies all logic and common sense, that particular theory. It just doesn't make any sense at all.
The blood specks on the back of the right sleeve could have
This
been
guy
caused
is
by
honestly kind of a really shit lawyer. He's got great like methodology and like thinking, and like he just needs to explain his ideas a little bit more clearly. As do I, you know, I'm not no fucking... Not no, like, you know... What's the guy from fucking... Who does Leonardo like DiCaprio play in the one movie? Like the con man? I ain't no con man, you know, I ain't great with words and shit. But... This guy's a lawyer.
Stabbing motion.
This gotta be a
but
little
the
bit more
defense said
articulate,
these were
you
in
know?
a location consistent with Michael's testimony of reaching over Sam to check on her. Finally, there remained the allegations against Jeff Herbstman. This, despite a thorough investigation that concluded he gave false statements and had nothing to do with Sam's murder.
If you're going to stand up in court and make serious accusations about somebody, accuse that person of murder, you should have serious evidence to back it up. And I'm not saying at all in any way, shape, or form that they have any burden in this case. They don't. But I'm just saying that we are accusing the defendant of murder, and we backed it up with serious evidence, evidence that you saw on full display over the last month. This is not serious evidence. The accusations they've made against Jeff Herbstman are unsupported. They're unremarkable.
The trial lasted roughly 6 weeks. After 23 hours of deliberations over 5 days, the jury returned. But they had only managed to reach a partial verdict.
Bad if I paid for that motherfucker.
In the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Michael Manuel Jackson Bolanos, Mr. Foreperson, will you please read the verdict form as marked as to count 1, first-degree felony murder?
Deadlocked.
As to count 2, first-degree premeditated murder?
Not guilty.
As to count 3, home invasion first degree?
Deadlocked.
The only count on which Michael was convicted was lying to police. The jury could not decide whether he had entered the house, nor if he had committed felony murder. He was acquitted of first-degree premeditated murder.
Damn.
The jury foreperson later told the media that the divide in the jury room was split almost 50-50 on the deadlocked charges. There was no way they would have reached
almost 50-50? Well, if it's not split 50-50, how is it deadlocked then? Eh? That's what I'm asking. If it's not split 50-50, how is it not deadlocked then? Maybe it's something to do with their specific law or something. But like, damn, that's crazy.
How many
These are
votes
majority wins?
we're
no?
taking?
Oh, multiple votes a day.
You said about a dozen.
Probably more than a dozen.
More than a dozen. How close was it at the end for guilty, not guilty?
I mean, I don't necessarily want to get into the exacts of it, but I mean, it was closer to 50-50 because of the holes in the case. We all had to try to figure out like what makes sense to us. I'm a little disappointed that I mean, I know they said that Herbstman had some sort of episode, but to me, that was proving he also lied to the police, right? Or it's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, if it was me, I would have thought he could have been charged with the same thing. I mean,
do you think he should have been?
Yeah, I think so.
At the sentencing hearing, Judge Van Houten handed down 18 months to 15 years for lying to the police. Had Michael not been categorized as a habitual offender, he may have been outright released on probation.
Number of times that the defendant lied, and I have to say, if lying was an Olympic sport, you would get the gold medal, sir, because you told lie after lie after lie throughout those interviews, interrogations, and
oh my boy,
even
you stepped around my balls, you fucking dirty little rat.
The judge also ruled that double jeopardy applied to the felony murder charge, despite the failure of the jury to reach a verdict. The ruling was based upon established legal precedents. Since a jury had found Michael Jackson Bolanos not guilty of first-degree murder, he could not be retried on the felony murder charge because both counts were based on the same premise and the same crime. As it currently stands, no one will be held responsible for the murder of Samantha Wall. After the verdict, Sam's family told the media that it pains them that justice for Sam has not been served. Ironically, Sam had spent much of her own life working towards a more just world. A good friend also reflected upon how disappointed and disgusted Sam would have been to have seen those that she had loved traumatized all over again throughout the lengthy trial.
We're still looking for justice.
You know, something tells me with this one, homeboy, you ain't never getting it. This one's a little fucked. She just gets stabbed in the middle of the night. You gotta find the other guy that was on that video. You know what baffles my mind? They seen another guy on the video. They could trace this guy with phone records and with all sorts of other videos and shit. You can't see the other motherfucker? Eh? What's up with that, eh? What's up, Rocky? That's my boy. Oh, you just want that sunlight. I know what you want. You just want that little bit of sunlight right there. Yeah. Yeah, you just want that sunlight. Oh, I love you. Just sitting in the sun. Just sitting in the sun. Yeah. Sneaky little bastard, you, Rox. I know what you're up to. I know what you're up to. Eh? I know what you're up to. Do I got a pet here? Let's go. Nope. Yeah, zombie. He over there sunning. Low-key. He's over here hitting up the sun. What's up, my dude? Arox? Arox, what's up, dude?
In the spring of 2010, in Independence, Missouri, father, husband, and well-respected member of the community, Randy Stone, was found shot to death. He had been in the office of the family business. Notes for his errands and activities planned for his church sat on a notepad on the desk. As the community mourned and tried to make sense of his tragic death, rumors began circulating about who could have been responsible. And buried secrets, hidden for years, made their way to the surface.
Is this the one?
Jennifer Farber-Dulos went missing from her Connecticut home in May 2019. Her vehicle was missing as well, but no one believed that the loving mother of 5 would disappear willingly, vanishing without a trace. No one, that is, but her estranged husband. Was Jennifer enacting her own version of the novel Gone Girl, staging her disappearance to frame him? Or do the signs of foul play point clearly towards the guilty parties?
Got 9 terminates there, let's go.
Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and this is Just Thought Lounge. JTL is the true crime channel that delivers serious, well-balanced coverage of the cases that really make you think. This case is one that has received international attention. There has been a lot of information released to the public sphere, contradicting versions of events, a list of alleged accomplices, and more than one odd twist and turn. Let's take a look. Jennifer
this
Farber
guy is
and
going
Fotis
nuts.
Doulos met during their shared time at Brown University in the late 1980s. Fotis graduated first in 1989 and went on to earn an MBA in finance at Columbia Business School. Jennifer graduated a year later in 1990 and later earned a master's degree in writing from New York University Tisch School of the Arts. It was years before the two reconnected, marrying only a month after Fotis's divorce to his first wife in the summer of 2004. In that same year, Fotis founded 4 Group Incorporated, a real estate development company that specialized in luxury homes in Connecticut. Jennifer worked as a writer online for Patch.com while also balancing her role as a stay-at-home mother to her 5 children, all aged between 8 to 13, including 2 sets of twins.
Yeah, this motherfucker
Jennifer
was
also
nonstop
maintained a
with the
blog
legs.
where she wrote of the trials of
Where you?
motherhood and work, all of the ups and the downs. The title of her blog was a tribute to her
Where you?
family,
Ew,
5makes7.com. Unfortunately, by the spring of 2018, the Doulos 7 had fractured. Jennifer had filed for divorce roughly a year prior and relocated from Farmington to a house in New Canaan, close to the children's school, and she took them with her. On Friday, the 24th of May, 2019, Jennifer had several appointments scheduled in New York. That morning, she left the house in New Canaan at 7:58 a.m. to drop off the kids at school just down the road. A neighbor's surveillance camera captured her vehicle, a 2017 Chevrolet Suburban, returning towards the house just 7 minutes later. The vehicle was captured one more time that morning, at 10:25 a.m., leaving the property. It's unclear if Jennifer was the driver of the vehicle when it left the house the second time that morning, but Jennifer Doulos has not been seen since. Lauren Almeida, the Doulos family friend and babysitter, arrived at Jennifer's New Canaan home at 11:30 a.m. She entered through the garage and noted that one of Jennifer's vehicles was missing. This was not odd, of course. She knew that Jennifer had multiple doctor's appointments booked for that day. But when Laura entered the house, there were indications that something was not right. Jennifer's handbag was on the floor, a mug for tea left out on the counter, and a half-eaten granola bar. Checking the pantry to replace the roll of kitchen towel, Lauren made an odd and unsettling discovery. The night before, she had placed a package of 12 full new rolls of paper towels in the pantry. But the next morning, she found only 2 remaining. What could possibly have transpired over that short period of time that required the use of 10 full towel rolls? Lauren texted Jennifer around noon, no response. Then again at around 1 p.m., still no response. Her phone call to Jennifer's cell phone at 4 p.m. went straight to voicemail. The babysitter had by that time collected all 5 children, but repeated attempts to reach their mother failed. Something was very wrong. By 7 p.m. that evening, police were called out to the property. Jennifer had not made it into her appointments, and no one had heard from her. When law enforcement arrived on scene, they walked through the property to see if anything appeared amiss. These responding officers rapidly noted markings that appeared blood-like in the garage. The center bay of the 3-car garage contained one vehicle, a Range Rover. On either side of this vehicle, the spots were empty. The Suburban had not returned to the house. Processing the scene, they found multiple areas which presumptively tested positive for blood. They found suspected blood on the Range Rover. There were spatter stains on the Rover's side and on the floor to the left of the vehicle. Detectives also noted that the area appeared to have been altered in an attempt to clean it.
Start calling him a fucking squirrel, dude.
The New Canaan home was now a crime scene, and further resources were being drawn to process the evidence and search the surrounding area.
Yeah, I used to have a big
Jennifer's
old
Suburban was located on a road to the southwest of Waveney Park, only 3 miles away from Jennifer's home.
She's a big girl.
Its running lights were on, and its transmission was left in reverse. There was a blood stain on the passenger side of the vehicle. There were no other signs of Jennifer. There was, however, indications that someone else had been nearby. Located less than 100 feet from where the Suburban had been found, investigators locate a camera which shows video of a red pickup truck. Two years earlier, on the 19th of June 2017, Fotis contacted 911, concerned that he could not reach his wife.
Location of your emergency.
I'm worried about my wife and kids because they left to go to New York, and I haven't been able to get in touch with them. I've been texting, and I see that the texts are being delivered, but nobody's responding to me.
At the time of this call, Jennifer was not truly missing. She had taken her children and left Fotis, filing for an emergency injunction the following day to retain custody of the children, as well as divorce papers. In these papers, Jennifer foreshadowed what could have been her fate. I know that filing for divorce will enrage him. I know he will retaliate by trying to harm me in some way. He had the attitude that he must always win at all costs. I am afraid of my husband. Jennifer knew that her husband had been having an affair. Fotis had not taken significant steps to conceal his actions. In fact, he had even wanted his girlfriend, Michelle Triconis, along with her then 10-year-old daughter, to move into the family home. Refusing to agree to any such arrangement, Jennifer became further frightened when she discovered that Fotis had recently purchased a gun.
Dun, dun,
These were the
dun.
final blows to the marriage for Jennifer. She gathered the children and left. The contentious divorce proceedings, conducted through seemingly endless motions from lawyers on each side, continued over the next 2 years, as did the fight for custody over the children, one that Fotis was repeatedly losing to Jennifer. That is, until the morning of May 24th, 2019, when Jennifer disappeared. Investigators at Jennifer's New Canaan property identified blood-like stains hastily and ineffectively cleaned throughout the garage as well as the remaining vehicle. Testing from the Range Rover hood, bumper, and rear fender all returned a DNA match to Jennifer. Likewise, the stains found on the garage door, east garage wall, and doorknob leading to the mudroom returned matches to Jennifer as well. On one sample from the scene, there were 2 DNA matches acquired. Swabs from the kitchen sink faucet returned a mixture of DNA from both Jennifer and that of her estranged husband, Fotis Doulos. Around 3 p.m. the next day, Fotis arrived at the New Canaan Police Department and met with detectives leading his wife's missing persons case. Fotis arrived with his attorney. Detectives seized his cell phone, and then Fotis and his attorney promptly left the station. Fotis would not be answering any questions. The forensic examination of Fotis Doulos' cell phone revealed that his handset was in the area of Albany Avenue in Hartford around 7 p.m. on the evening of Jennifer's disappearance. Curious as to these movements, a video canvass was conducted of the area. What detectives discovered was potentially an attempted cover-up for murder. The cameras in Hartford allowed detectives to track a 2014 Ford Raptor, one registered to 4 Group, traveling in the area from roughly 7:30 p.m. through to 7:50 p.m. on the 24th of May. The driver, a man shown wearing a light-colored shirt, dark pants, and a ball cap, was accompanied by a female passenger. The driver was captured depositing multiple black-colored plastic garbage bags into several trash receptacles along the route over this 20-minute period. There are 3 separate stops along the mapped route captured on camera in which bags were disposed of. Footage capturing the rear of the vehicle likewise shows several plastic bags in the back of the pickup truck, slowly depleting throughout the journey. At one point, the driver even stuffed a box of items through a storm drain in an attempt to dispose of it. Detectives promptly checked the trash receptacles shown in the surveillance footage and retrieved bags matching those in the video. In some instances, they had already been collected, leading to a multi-day exhaustive search through trash compiled at a local processing hub. In the acquired bags, they found items of clothing cut to shreds, as well as undergarments with blood-like stains. A shirt that Jennifer was thought to have been wearing on the day she was last seen was stained with blood. Plastic zip ties inside the bags also showed what could be blood, alongside other standard household trash items. Inside the box pushed through the storm drain, investigators found a Connecticut license plate canceled, though previously registered to a Chevrolet Suburban, owned by none other than Fotis Doulos. 2 of the characters on this license plate had been visually altered with tape, to appear from a distance to be a different plate number. DNA testing was performed on the clothing and other items from the trash receptacles. the results for Fotis Doulos were damning. By way of explanation, he claimed to have discovered the items left outside his home, and rather than turn them over to law enforcement, he disposed of them in a panic.
Statistically, when something like this happens, 90 or 95% is the spouse.
Say yes, 90% of the time it is the spouse.
But it's 90%, it's not 100%.
So when people...
I'm in the 5 or 10% category.
When Fotis went on his dump trip around Hartford, he was not alone. Cameras captured the image of a woman in the passenger seat of his pickup truck. Michelle Troconis did not deny being the passenger in the truck that day. Just over a week after Jennifer was reported missing, arrests were made, but not for murder.
Do you know where Jennifer is? Is there anything you would like to say to your children?
Where is she? Where is she?
Fotis was brought in under charges of tampering with evidence, but the case against him for the killing of his wife was still forming. Indeed, it was made more difficult by the heartbreaking fact that Jennifer herself had not been located.
Michelle, where's Jennifer?
Michelle, as an alleged accomplice, was likewise arrested for evidence tampering and brought in for questioning. Despite what police would later recount, there was video from her questioning that suggested she was being cooperative. However, she also appeared to know more than she had been letting on, and may just hold the key to the crime, or knowledge of where to find Jennifer.
Sure. We think you have information.
I'm going to help them, but I can walk the whole world with you if you want. I can take you to like the motor place. I can go there. I can spend a month with you guys. I can do whatever you want, but I didn't do.
Yeah. Dad's cooking up some
I have no idea what happened to Jennifer. I have no idea where Jennifer is.
Yeah.
While Michelle maintained her innocence of any crime and ignorance of Jennifer's presumed murder, investigators searching Fotis's Farmington property uncovered something curious. Handwritten notes by both Fotis and Michelle found inside the house seemed to detail their whereabouts on the day that Jennifer went missing. These detailed and thorough notes aligned seamlessly to the narrative Michelle had provided the police at her interview. Investigators subsequently dubbed these papers the alibi scripts, leaving no ambiguity as to what they interpreted was their purpose.
Do you know more, yes or no? And if you do, give us that answer and then start telling us. If not, I think we're all set.
Okay.
From the beginning, when he started to think about this, everything.
No, that I don't know.
Do you know more, yes or no?
No.
The alibi scripts outlined the activities of Fotis Doulos and Michelle Troconis in hourly intervals throughout the day in question when Jennifer disappeared, as well as the day following. An original copy of these notes were found in the trash of the Farmington residence. Photocopies were located in Fotis's briefcase, and a nearly verbatim version was then recorded by police during Michelle Troconis's interview. But then,
that's crazy.
And as time went on and the interviews continued, Michelle's story began to change. As investigators pieced together where Fotis and Michelle really were that day, Michelle was faced with contradictions and the information she omitted. For example, she was confronted with the evidence of her presence during the dump trip throughout Hartford, which had been left out of both her and Fotis's scripts. There's a reasonable explanation for the existence of the alibi scripts. According to Michelle, Fotis spoke with his family attorney in the days immediately following Jennifer's disappearance. He was instructed to record a detailed timeline of his actions from the last time that he saw his wife. Counsel advised him to record all details at that time that he could remember. Whether he entered the house when dropping off the children, which rooms did he enter, what items might he have touched. This may have explained why Fotis produced otherwise suspicious documents, but it does not explain Michelle's changing story, one which continued to vary from one account to the next over 2 more voluntarily offered interviews with investigators. Nor does it account for why activities in the alibi scripts attributed to Michelle never happened. They were part recollection and part fabrication. Michelle did have a verifiable alibi for the morning Jennifer disappeared. She visited 2 friends at 2 different addresses, as well as photographed herself outside of a Stop and Shop. The reason for taking this photograph is unclear, but it is timestamped and verifiable. There was one fact central to the case that Michelle could not keep straight. Where had Fotis been on the morning of May 24th? At first, she could recall seeing him, then she couldn't. She saw him at home, then in the next interview, it was at the 4 Group office. Then, finally, after repeated questioning by police, Michelle admitted to seeing Fotis' cell phone that morning, but not Fotis himself. Michelle eventually admitted Fotis was obviously not in the house that morning. He did return in the afternoon. Michelle told police that she spent that afternoon cleaning the Farmington house in preparation for a meeting that Fotis claimed to have with a client the next morning. She said she was largely unaware and uninterested in what Fotis was up to elsewhere on the property during that time. At one point, Fotis asked her for some paper towels to help clean up a stain he had made inside a friend's truck. This was a 2001 Toyota Tacoma red pickup truck, a truck he had borrowed that day from a friend and employee from 4 Group, a man named Powell Gummany. This truck was of particular interest to investigators since it matched exactly the vehicle captured on camera parked only feet from Jennifer's abandoned Suburban. Michelle assisted in the cleaning of Powell's vehicle later that day by handing her boyfriend some paper towels. When he handed it back, the towel was dirtied with a dark stain, a stain that Michelle could not verify had actually been coffee. The implication, according to police, was that Michelle was assisting in the cleanup of a vehicle used in the crime. The stain wasn't coffee, they said. Luminol testing of the truck returned indications of blood.
And then he walked and he grabbed me, he gave me a piece of paper over the toilet, the paper towel, and I put it inside where I had the bag of cleaning, what I was cleaning, the house.
Okay, did you see spilled coffee?
No, I didn't see that.
Did you see a coffee cup?
No, because I didn't look inside the car.
Did the paper towel smell like coffee?
No, I didn't smell it.
Well, but still, you're holding that coffee stinks.
But I hold the paper towel, but I didn't smell it. I didn't see that.
But even still, you didn't smell coffee.
No.
You know how coffee is when you smell it, it stinks.
Yeah.
Smell it.
Yeah.
This is Pavel's truck. Did you ever hear of something called luminol? Luminol is something we use to look at evidence, to see if blood was somewhere. When it hits the blood, it illuminates. That's all that.
That's blood?
And where do you think that belongs to? Who do you think that belongs to?
Jennifer.
If you know stuff that you're not telling us,
no, I don't
that's
know.
the man you're protecting, because that's some sick shit.
I'm not protecting him.
Okay.
I said, and I really don't want to see him ever again in my life.
9 a.m. the next morning, Fotis and Michelle took the same truck to Russell Speeder's car wash, where Fotis paid $250 in cash to have the vehicle detailed. Fotis was photographed withdrawing the money for this service. Michelle was presumed to be with him. Upon returning the truck back to Powell, Fotis insisted that new seats be installed to replace the old ones, and this was done. Investigators acquired the truck, as well as the removed seats that had been inside the vehicle on May 24th. Jennifer Doulos' blood was found on the passenger side seat of those Fotis had wanted to remove.
We categorically deny that Mr. Doulos had any involvement in the disappearance of his wife, Jennifer, and we defy the state to prove that she is in fact dead.
Jennifer wrote an unpublished novel that, according to Fotis' lawyer Norm Pattis, had a similar plot to Lynn's 2012 novel, Gone Girl, which tells the story of a woman who fakes her own disappearance in order to frame her husband. The attorney pointed to that book's plot, claiming that Jennifer Doulos might have staged her own disappearance.
Lynn is slamming Fotis Doulos' attorney, Norm Pattis, for using the plot of her 2012 novel as a defense theory. In the book, a woman stages her death and frames her husband. Pattis shot back, writing, "Here's a message to Gillian, be gone girl. There's serious work to be done here. This isn't fiction, it's reality."
it seems that Fotis had been pushing this theory for months. His belief was demonstrated only the month prior when he wished his children and Jennifer a Merry Christmas, despite her being presumed dead for nearly 6 months.
All I want to say is that I wish Jennifer and her family happy holidays, and I just pray that they give my kids my love and my best wishes.
Fotis Doulos may not have been at his office between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. when Jennifer went missing,
here,
but there was someone else there.
Come on.
Kent Mawhinney, a practicing attorney and close friend of Fotis Doulos. Kent was present at the Four Group office that morning and encountered Michelle Troconis, though both eventually admitted that neither set eyes on Fotis during that time. Fotis' cell phone showed 2 calls to Kent later that day, placed during his dump trip with Michelle, though Kent denies ever speaking with him during that time. Police believed that Kent knew far more than he was letting on, however. His name appeared multiple times in the alibi scripts. In addition, Kent was going through a contentious divorce of his own. And in an odd twist, in the days just before Jennifer went missing, Kent's estranged wife began to receive quite a bit of attention from Fotis Doulos.
Hi, this is Fotis Doulos from Four Group. I just wanted to reach out to you when you get a chance. My number is. Thank you so much. It's Fotis Doulos. Hope you're doing well. It's Sunday morning, mid-morning, and I'm just trying to touch base with you to see what the plan is so I can plan my
good luck with the house.
Afternoon, evening accordingly. Okay, call me back. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
The soon-to-be former Miss Mawhinney, whose full identity has been kept largely secret for her own privacy, told investigators how strange it was for Fotis, who was no more than an acquaintance to her, to be reaching out in this way. She had agreed to meet with him once, on the 16th of May at a restaurant. During the meeting, Fotis attempted to make a case to her that she and her estranged husband should reconcile, a bizarre proposal being presented by a near stranger. But more unsettling, at multiple points during their meeting, Fotis tried to convince her to come with him to his home, invitations she repeatedly declined. Following the meeting, as details emerged of Jennifer's disappearance and Kent's involvement with the alibi scripts, his estranged wife became convinced that Fotis had been attempting to use her as an alibi.
It looks like Fotis was actually trying to set up an alibi by meeting with Kent's wife.
She also believed that had she gone with him to his Farmington home as he had requested, her husband would have been lying in wait for her there to harm her.
This is not a relative. This is not the type of person who you would expect would, reach out and try to mend a marriage.
Zalota's questioning in an interview with Fox 61 last week whether his client avoided a fate similar to Jennifer Doulos.
We're close to
The
getting
murder
it.
investigation
like
continued over the
125
following months.
Do you any comment?
Go, baby.
How are you holding up?
Excuse us.
How are you holding up?
Excuse us. No comment. Excuse us.
Mr. Doulos, where's the body?
The public and Fotis Doulos himself anticipated murder charges were pending, but in the meantime, he remained free on bond while additional charges of evidence tampering were filed against him.
Mr. Doulos, in this particular instance here with this particular charge, what do you have to say for yourself?
It's an exhausting fight. I love my children. That's about it.
Where's your wife? Where's Jennifer?
We wish we knew, and it was very, I don't know if you got a chance to see us talking to the state police. I have a very friendly relationship with them. I wish them well. And I wish you'd ask yourself why you have the nerve and the audacity to ask them that question. Because if you know something the police don't know, you should go tell them. We don't know where Jennifer is.
Very interested in him.
What?
Police seem very interested.
They do, but where's the murder charge? And where's your objectivity? Shame on you.
Can you give us
Was it Mr. Doulos on that videotape?
behalf, Mr. Doulos?
Shame on you.
There was more legal trouble of a different kind, also surfacing for Fotis. Gloria Farber, Jennifer's mother, filed a lawsuit asserting that Fotis accepted $2.5 million in loans from her and her late husband, and he had not paid her back.
By 2010, the relationship did not have any promissory notes. There was no obligation to pay any of the funds that were...
You expect Gloria Farber, the mother of Jennifer Farber, to be giving you gifts, $14,000 a year, even after Jennifer is missing and you've been accused of criminal conduct in connection with her missing?
I don't expect anything. I know what the agreement was.
While the civil lawsuit was ongoing, the state finally, after just over 7 months, filed murder charges against Fotis Doulos and conspiracy charges against both Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney.
On January 7th, 2020,
This guy convinced
Western
other people.
District,
That's fucking nuts.
in
Those people
conjunction
are gonna turn
with
on him
Central
so
District
fast.
Major Crime Detectives,
Guarantee it.
were able to get enough evidence to effect the arrests of 3 following individuals. Fotis Doulos, who is charged with...
Very encouraged by our preliminary review of the warrants. Very little was disclosed today that is new. And what was exposed was a shocking lack of confidence by the state in its case. Charging both murder and felony murder sounding in kidnapping suggests that the state's not sure what theory it's pursuing. Additionally, early in the case, much was made in the warrants of difficulties Mr. Doulos was having concluding the divorce with his ex-wife. That is surprisingly absent from the most recent warrant. Instead, the motive seems to be changed now to that of a financial crime, with the theory that Mr. Doulos might potentially be in a position to serve as executor or trustee of a fund maintained for the benefit of his children.
The state did posit a theory, though having never located Jennifer, there remained gaps in the narrative. The theory was that Jennifer was bludgeoned or stabbed in her garage shortly after returning from her school drop-off just after 8 a.m. Surveillance cameras in the neighborhood tracked the red Toyota pickup truck borrowed by Fotis that day into the area where it was then parked on a dirt turnoff in Waveney Park, roughly 100 feet from where Jennifer's Suburban was later found. A cyclist in dark clothing with a hood pulled over their face was recorded along the route between the dirt turnoff on Lapham Road and Waveney Park, traveling towards Jennifer's home. The bicycle ridden by the suspicious person was unique in its features. It had ram horn handlebars, consistent with a vintage 10-speed bicycle, and metallic reflective rims. This matched the description of Fotis's own childhood bicycle, which he had shipped to him from Greece some years before. It was stored inside his garage, but the bicycle was notably absent from its regular location in the days after the murder. Police also stated that the rim of a bicycle was visible in the back of the red Toyota pickup truck, captured on cameras later that day.
Damn.
Once in the garage, Jennifer sustained what were assumed to be fatal injuries, though perhaps not immediately. She was restrained using plastic zip ties and put into her 2017 Chevrolet Suburban. The state believes that the camera capturing the Suburban leaving the property at 10:25 a.m. was driven by Fotis Doulos.
The state believes he engineered and caused his wife's death. We don't. We're anxious for the trial, or believe the allegations in the warrant. If that's all the state has, we're confident about trial, and Mr. Doulos has no interest in fighting. He has every interest in fighting this case and reclaiming his reputation.
Following his arrest for murder in January 2020, Fotis was due for an emergency bond hearing. He had been released on house arrest, but now faced the possibility of having that freedom revoked. He spoke with his attorney that morning, but then he failed to arrive for his scheduled court appearance. Police traveled out to his home to locate him. There, a view through to his garage showed Fotis in his Suburban. Fotis was unconscious from carbon monoxide poisoning and rushed to the hospital.
They could see through a window that Mr. Doulos was sitting in his vehicle, and he had obvious signs of medical distress. Officers forced entry and immediately began to perform life-saving measures. Medics responded from the East Farmington Fire Department, Yukon Health, and AMR Ambulance to assist with those.
Yeah, I'll be right back. cool. Going to the casino later. My family. It'll be a good time.
Life-saving measures. Mr. Doulos was transported to Yukon Health by ambulance, where he is now listed as critical condition. Right now, the investigation is just beginning, and we expect to have an update later this evening.
Was there a note at all that might have indicated that this was a suicide attempt?
Yes, it's way too early for us to confirm any of that right now.
Fotis did leave a note that proclaimed his innocence and that of his accused co-conspirators. It would be his last communication. He was airlifted to hospital in New York and placed in critical care. 2 days later, Fotis Doulos was pronounced dead. In his suicide note, Fotis wrote, "I want it to be known that Michelle Troconis had nothing to do with Jennifer's disappearance." Fotis' attorney believes he took his own life because he was overwhelmed by the weight of the murder accusation, but not, as many might deduce, the weight of his guilt.
Fotis Doulos was declared dead tonight at 5:32. The family is adamant that his name be cleared. As we are speaking, we have filed an unusual motion in the Connecticut courts asking to substitute an estate for Fotis Doulos for him as a defendant, to force the state to show its hand in a trial filled with evidence we think that amounts to no more than innuendo and unsupported suspicion. Contend that Mr. Doulos' death reflects a consciousness of guilt. We say no.
Exclamation point, spend,
we say
brother,
it was more
are just things that you can redeem. So all those you do exclamation point, redeem.
Was too busy to listen, and it
space,
wanted a
whatever,
story,
you know?
more than it wanted the truth.
Prosecutors declined to continue with the trial against Fotis Doulos after his death, despite his attorney's efforts to proceed in his defense. But the conspiracy to commit murder cases against Michelle Troconis and Kent Mawhinney continued. Michelle's attorneys have argued that her lack of English language fluency can explain much of what police investigators claimed were suspiciously changing narratives. Her responses varied because her comprehension did. In pre-trial, Michelle was granted a translator to follow the proceedings.
Which is a change from the other time she's been here.
I believe, I'll just say this, Your Honor, although there may be some hint of cynicism in that statement. Ms. Troconis, her first language is not English, although I can communicate with her in English. I also communicate with her in Spanish, which I speak. And if we're going to do anything more technical than just stand in front of the court and enter pleas or whatnot, I felt it was better for purposes of this case that she have the assistance of an interpreter.
Michelle's defense has further argued that the traffic video of the dump trip does not show Michelle doing anything at all. At one point, she leaned from the truck and rubbed her hand on the sidewalk, but she is never shown disposing of anything. She has an uncontested alibi covering the morning of the 24th itself. Her legal team has also stated that any DNA linking her to items involved in the alleged cover-up have been embellished. And they may also have new evidence. John Shinhorn, Michelle's attorney, has stated that DNA from a sweatshirt thought to be linked to the suspicious cyclist apparently did not match Fotis Doulos, a fact that throws a wrench into the state's theory of the crime. The lawyer has not stated how he acquired the sweatshirt. However, it was found to carry a hair of the fourth and largely forgotten person of interest, Powell Gummany. The assertion by Michelle's defense is that Powell, not Fotis, was the cyclist in the photo, and indeed, it was his truck captured near Jennifer's Suburban.
100 more. That's all we need.
Also raises the issue. I have filed now 2 motions to dismiss. There are several motions to suppress. Let me be clear, if it's not clear, I've alleged in those motions that the warrants themselves contain outright falsehoods, reckless disregards of the truth, and important and material omissions.
Actual accuracy of that will have to await a determination by one of my colleagues, but it's not that you are bereft of information, is it?
Well, I'm bereft of evidence that would be admissible in court. I submit that what Kimball wrote in those warrants is mostly theory, speculation, It might be evidence admissible against Mr. Doulos if he was still a defendant in a case.
Motions to dismiss the charges against Michelle have been unsuccessful. Most recently, her team has filed a motion to have the investigators from the case disqualified. The state has responded by attempting to have her attorney removed from the case. Kent Mawhinney was the only one of the 3 co-conspirators that initially failed to post bond.
Has substantial ties to the state. And then we had the fact of his law practice. He's a sole practitioner. He's been doing immigration law for the past 20 years.
In either March or April of 2019, just prior to the alleged murder, Kent had contacted an old friend of his from the Windsor Rod and Gun Club in East Granby. Kent had found the land and then assisted the club to obtain it roughly 12 years earlier. He had let his membership to the club expire, but had inquired how he might get back onto the large wooded property. He was told where he could find a hidden key. In May 2019, roughly a week prior to Jennifer's disappearance, members of the Rod and Gun Club came upon a hole dug into the ground measuring approximately 2 feet wide, 6 feet long, and 3 feet deep. The members described the hole as 100% a human grave. Inside were bags of lime, a mineral thought to cover the scent of decomposition. They did not report the hole to police until much later, after Jennifer's disappearance, and upon hearing of Kent Mawhinney's renewed interest in visiting the land and his connection to the case. Until that point, they said the hole was disturbing, but no one was actually missing. Adding a layer of circumstantial evidence was a review of Kent's cell phone records. These showed his phone accessing the tower in East Granby near to the Rod and Gun Club on a handful of instances from March to May 2019, including once at just past 11 p.m. on the 31st of May, just days after Jennifer was reported missing. When law enforcement searched the club, they found the hole filled in. They dug into the ground and canines searched the scene, but no human remains were located. The chief state attorney has stated that the grave never contained Jennifer Farber Doulos. However, prosecutors do believe that Kent Mawhinney dug that hole, presumably for a reason. The search for Jennifer is not over. The property in Farmington has been sold, leading police to return for yet another thorough search before it changed hands. Drones flew overhead, holes were dug in various areas, and a bone finder was called in to search the basement. They did not report anything of evidentiary value following that search.
Our main goal is to, again, work towards providing the family of Jennifer Doulos some closure, and our detectives will continue to work tirelessly in the direction of doing so.
Kent Mawhinney was eventually released on about a $250,000 bail. Then he was sent back after tampering with his ankle monitor. He allegedly severed the strap, but the 2 wires that track location were still intact. Kent remained in custody until December 2022,
That's the biggest waste
when his bond was reduced back down. Kent, like Michelle, has pleaded not guilty to the conspiracy charges. However, he is expected to testify against Michelle Troconis in her pending trial. Reports state that Kent is expected to testify that he overheard Michelle and Fotis planning the murder. And then again in a subsequent conversation, he overheard the words, "We did it." The 5 Doulos children have been in the custody of Jennifer's mother, Gloria, in Manhattan since the day she disappeared. Writing back in 2012, when her youngest was still a baby, Jennifer wrote in her blog about the trials of motherhood and the impact on her sleep. She wrote that she and her daughter always slept better when Fotis was out of town. She closed the anecdote by addressing her child. "I know that this too shall pass, but I fear I may be in a body bag by then. Love, your mom."
That's crazy.
And that was the tragic case so far of the disappearance of...
So far. Keywords.
Yo, what's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. I got an update for you all on a bunch of different things, so please listen carefully. First of all, we're doing a giveaway for our brand new Saber, the Hermit 4. So that's on. Gillard and I were talking about something last night, and regarding Vader episode 2 and 3. 2 is well ahead of schedule, by the way, so it'll be out probably in the springtime of 2025, which is great. For 3, he wanted to implement some choreography that he actually had for episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, with Anakin, but it didn't make the film, it didn't make the cut, and he wants to extend a scene in there, which you guys will all recognize and see, and it's going to be pretty freaking cool. I can't wait to actually have that happen, but I'm meeting with Nick in a few months. Anyways, I'll have more about that in a bit. Most of October, I'm going to be traveling, so I won't actually be home. So videos might be a little bit tough, but I'll keep you updated on.
I called earlier and I left too long of a message, so I'll try to leave this one a little more brief.
This one's so long.
Basically, in high school, I was dating this Guatemalan chick and took her virginity, and she, we dated for about 6 months afterwards, and when we broke up, she stalked me for about 2.5 years, and I finally got rid of her. Fast forward almost 20 years later, I have a wife. I got 3 kids. My twins are 7, and then my oldest is 9. And I created a Facebook so that I could share pictures with the family and stuff like that. First thing that happens after I create it and put pictures and all that is I get a message from my stalker that says, "I don't know who she is, but I envy every drop of her. I'll see you soon."
Oh, God.
And I showed my wife, and she obviously wants to call the cops. She's very worried. She thinks this girl is out of her mind, crazy. I mean, it's been 20 years, and she's still on that. So
that's crazy.
Obviously, she's got a screw loose, but in my personal opinion, I dealt with it for so long. I've done all that stuff. When I call the cops, when I try to escalate it and try to get her to stop, when I get angry, it only feeds into it, and she ends up getting even crazier and doing crazier things. So I think the best thing to do is to ignore her, block her on Facebook, just don't give her that attention, and just let it just die out like that.
Clearly that hasn't worked for the past 20 years.
With that. We've been going back and forth for a while now, and I don't know what to do, man. I'm just really concerned because, like I said, it's been 20 years, and I don't want this crazy bitch to try to do something, to me or my children or my wife, because I gave her some good dick 20 years ago. And
has to pat himself on the back. Pause this.
Stressful.
There's no way your dick has anything. This was high school. She was a virgin. You think you laid it down so good? You don't think this is just a mentally ill woman, an insanely mentally ill woman? That's so fucking cool to be like, dude, it's just the hard part is I fucking dicked her down so good.
I dicked her down so good on an air mattress. At 3 p.m. before my parents came home.
I gave her the time of her life in the back of a Hyundai Elantra. 45 seconds at a time. All right, let's finish.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with the fact that we kept talking.
Yeah.
After we broke up for so long.
Yeah. Anyway, let's finish this.
I don't think she has anything crazy on me. If anything, I got videos and pictures of her, so I don't know.
What? Why do you have that?
Kind of confused. I don't know what to do.
What?
Yeah.
You have videos and pictures of her?
Love you guys.
From 20 years ago? Please tell me you mean you have videos of her being weird, not you kept sex souvenirs from high school.
He's basically
which might be child pornography.
That's what I was thinking. He's like, don't worry, she's got nothing on me, but I do have a lot of child porn on my phone at the current moment. Don't worry,
I got her dead to rights. I have vintage child pornography to show the authorities.
If we're ever in court, don't worry.
I will pull that out, and I won't even run it by my lawyer. It'll be like a surprise, like at the end of SVU. Okay, so did he say they kept in touch, or
Yeah, it said for
He
2.5
said they dated
years.
for 6 months, and then he says she stalked him for 2.5
Gotcha.
years
No,
after they
he's-
dated.
But he said earlier we kept talking, right? We dated for 6. We broke up. Oh, she.
Yeah, after they broke
she
up for
stalked
dating
me.
for 6 months, she started stalking him for 2.5 years.
Gotcha.
Okay, never mind.
So this is crazy that if this was 20 years ago and they had no contact, that he makes a Facebook and she instantly finds him, that's kind of fucking wild.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of see both sides here. Well, first of all, if you have any pictures of her as underage, if you have any pictures, delete them.
That's not leverage.
That's weird as fuck, bro. That is so fucked up and strange. Like, if I think about somebody I fucked in college and like keeping that was legitimately 15 years ago. Like, that's so strange to fucking have. I don't have it. I think it's weird. We've talked about this on the show before. I think it's weird to keep souvenirs from old relationships in general. I think it's kind of fucking pathetic and a little creepy. But 20 years from high school is like illegal.
20 years. Wait, so how old is this guy? I'm trying to.
I mean, he's probably our age. Unfortunately.
Yeah, so
unfortunately,
I didn't have a. I don't think I had a iPhone.
Yeah, I didn't either. This man's got a Motorola Razr with fucking with 17-year-old tits on it. This guy's got a Nokia with pussy pictures.
He emailed them to his fucking Gmail, like literally when Gmail was invented.
Of a digital camera.
I've got a Hotmail account with some pretty incriminating photos on it. And I understand why his wife is a little freaked out.
100%.
Will not get rid of these photos. Yeah. Like, that should be step one.
Okay, so that is fucking crazy. I do think he's probably right in that for the time being, you just have to be like, we have to ignore this, hope it goes away, right? This is a fucking crazy person. Does this person live near you? For the time being, I wouldn't go to the cops. Right? First of all, you think the cops are going to be helpful? It's insane to think that. Like, it would have to be pretty. You have to get down the line to get cops involved. Like, you call the cops right now, they're just going to be like, hey, buddy, I get it. They're just going to be like, okay, but she didn't really do anything. See you later. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to do shit.
1000%.
So, I think you're right. Ignore her. Definitely don't reach out to her. Definitely don't talk to her. That's crazy. And you just have to have, like, you just kind of have to be on alert. And if anything pops up, then you go to the cops. I mean, there's no real way to go around this. Don't mention the pictures to the cops. Don't bring those up. And yeah, I mean, you have a wife and 3 kids. I get where your wife is coming from, but I think what you need to say is not, let's just ignore this, but like, hey, I'm with you. I want to deal with this as you know, swiftly and right as possible. But we don't have, as annoying as it is, we don't have any evidence right now that this woman was going to, like, she's just made vague threats. Hopefully we just ignore her. You know, I'm as freaked out as you, but in the past, if I ignored her, it went away. And the more attention I gave to her, the more it got worse. The second that we can go to the cops, I will. But right now, this just doesn't make sense.
I get your wife's scared. You've got twins. I mean, that's already scary.
Yeah.
And then you've got this, like, threat.
Yeah.
And then you've got the cops where you're a guy calling saying a woman is stalking you. They're going to be like, fucking lucky.
Yeah, pussy.
Nice, dude.
Have you thought about sexually assaulting her and getting away with it because we don't really do anything in that scenario?
I mean, a restraining order, is that like a thing that makes sense in this scenario?
Yeah, I think but I just think at this point, a vague sort of "I'll see you soon" like, it is freaky.
Yeah.
But I don't think the cops were going to do anything for that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like especially now where so many people get bullied online, you think cops are fucking checking out every weird message you're getting from someone on the internet? No way.
I misclicked. Man's out here just fucking getting the gains and the points. Got me some termites. Nice. Hey, zombie. I need, what, 60 more termites? And then you want to play some zombies? Dogs, I'm 100% down. I won't be good for a little bit anyway, so you got lots of time. I gotta get 60 more termites. 60 more termites first, and it's not guaranteed to get them, so... Take your time, brother. Take your time. You'll play some zombies, Golden. You got Black Ops 3 on the PC? You just get them randomly going around the course. So you don't have it, I'm assuming? It's on your Xbox? Oh shit, yeah. That's unfortunate. Sorry, man. I don't got no Xbox. The man himself, Paul Williams. How you doing? Take it. 450. Those things, they're going well. Just trying, I need 50 more fucking termites, and then I can get a cool upgrade for my character here. Oh, well. How about you, man? What's new? Oh, now zoo, nice, nice.
YouTube Premium is ad-free YouTube and exclusive access to all things VIP.
Nerderotic.com.
Greetings, you over 1 million hellions and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. 5 years ago, in the before times, prior to the horrid government response to COVID, prior to the Summer of Love, prior to the Hollywood strikes and shutdown, a little film drop called Joker. A movie absolutely nobody asked for, which is essentially a solo origin story of a Batman villain who's never had one or needed one. And if you recall, prior to the film's release, it was quite controversial. And this had everything to do with the corporate access media who was trying to will something into existence by gaslighting the world and pushing the narrative that this film would somehow lead to incel violence.
Security concerns surrounding the new Joker movie, the FBI, the LAPD, among those taking action.
Concerned that the new Joker movie could be used as an excuse for a mass authorities are taking every precaution to keep moviegoers safe.
In New York, police were on high alert at a special screening at the Lincoln Center on Wednesday night. There was also heightened security here in LA.
When in truth, at the time, the only violence that was happening in movie theaters was for Frozen 2. Interestingly enough, that's the same corporate media just a few months later that was saying all the actual violence was mostly peaceful. But thanks to the controversy, it propelled a pretty damn good movie that we didn't know we needed, Joker, into the stratosphere, earning over $1 billion at the box office despite having some things going against it, including it being a rated R film, it wasn't released in China, and the top corporate critics, particularly on Rotten Tomatoes, giving it a 49%. Quick reminder, these are the corporate clowns who are constantly pushing the narrative that the audience lacks media literacy these days when they clearly showed their misperceived political bias. And Joker went on to win Academy Awards, including a well-deserved Best Actor award for Joaquin Phoenix. And on top of that, DC, along with Warner Brothers, that was still reeling from the Snyder-ocalypse, finally got a win. They captured lightning in a bottle. It's a shame Warner Brothers is America's dumbest company and didn't make that much money off it. No one can argue that a lot of people like the Joker, including yours truly, as a one-off, as an Elseworlds. It was a slow burn that led to an open ending that was meant to be debated till the end of time, until now. Because Joker Folie à Deux, which I'm going to call Joker 2 for the rest of this video, answers a lot of those questions definitively. And now that I've seen it, it answers another big question. Did Joker need a sequel? No, which sucks because I know along with a lot of other people, I was looking forward to this one. And it's not to say it isn't well made. It's well shot, well directed, well acted. The score is good. Mind you, I said the score and not the musical bits because yes, it's a musical of sorts, and that's the worst part in it. I won't go as far as to say Joker 2 would have been good without the musical scenes, but it would have been better. It essentially turns into a musical court drama. Now, the first half of the film, we follow Arthur Fleck as he does his time in Arkham after being charged with 5 of the 6 murders he committed in the first film. And after a promising opening animated sequence set to the song Me and My Shadow, just like its predecessor, it looked like we were headed towards a slow burn that ended up fizzling out. And don't worry, there won't be any spoilers. Joaquin Phoenix does a fantastic job with what he is given while playing Arthur Fleck, who, for the vast majority of this film, is incarcerated, while trying to strategize his defense with his lawyer, played by Catherine Keener, who is really trying to push with Arthur and the prosecution that the Joker is a separate personality within Arthur Fleck. While in Arkham, he meets Lee Quinzel, who at one point is called Harley, played by Lady Gaga. Now, there were some rumors that Joker 2 would be from Harley Quinn's perspective, but that is not the case. This is an Arthur Fleck film. That being said, Lady Gaga did a good job playing Harley Quinn as she was meant to be portrayed, a fangirl who is obsessed with the Joker. And the rest of the cast isn't too shabby either. Brendan Gleeson as a slightly rapey Arkham guard, Harvey Dent's in it, and there's a great scene with little Gary from the first film. So if all this was good, what went wrong? Well, everything else. I like Todd Phillips as a director, and I understand what he was trying to do, and I even respect trying to do something a little different. But everything he did to build up Arthur Fleck into the Joker is completely undone. While the presence of the Joker is still there, we're right back to pathetic Arthur Fleck. The unreliable narrator is still in Joker 2. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's subtle, but most of the time I just didn't care because it wasn't as good as it was with Sophie in the first film. For example, with Lady Gaga's Lee Quinzel, there are times where she is acknowledged by characters in the film, and there are other times where it's questionable, and it's up to you to figure that out if you want to see it. Because those interesting moments are far and few between. Again, while the Access Media said the Joker would lead to incel violence, I can definitively say Joker 2 will lead to narcolepsy. That will occasionally and abruptly be interrupted with musical scenes that at their very worst are frustrating and at their very best are mid. The ones that aren't in Arthur's head are performed in a muted way, kind of like this.
I'm here with my dad, so I'm here now. I found you, Daddy. Guess what? I love you, I love you, I love you!
Wow, that was weird.
You know, I just realized that that could be the scene between Arthur and Thomas Wayne from The Joker. Anyway, the musical bits that are in Arthur's head are better, but the only memorable thing about them is the sets. And now that I come to think of it, the best word to properly describe Joker 2 is frustrating. And it's not just because every time this film feels like it's starting to go somewhere, they break into song and stop it dead in its tracks, when they could have used that time to do more with Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn. And this is kind of a surprise because I would argue she's underused in this. No, the single most frustrating thing is the complete deconstruction of Arthur Fleck. Because essentially it's just Arthur facing the consequences of his actions playing the Joker. It's character assassination through character reversion. Arthur Fleck is right back where he was at the beginning of the first movie. And I understand that's the entire point of the film, and I also understand it didn't work for me at all. This brings us to the predictable ending that they gave away pretty early on. Something Todd Phillips himself knew would divide fans. And I think he's right. People will be talking about this one. Unfortunately for Warner Brothers, not as many as they'd like. Because it looks like like Joker 2's early ticket sales are right on par with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Dysentery and The Flash. Oof. And considering the budget for Joker 2 was exactly $145 million more than its predecessor, things aren't looking good. And if Warner Brothers is holding out for word of mouth, well, the sold-out fan IMAX screening I was in yesterday was dead silent when the movie ended. Joker 2 comes off as if it's apologetic for its predecessor. It's almost a troll. And for all I know, it is. Now, if it's Todd Phillips trolling Warner Brothers, respect. I can see him telling Warner Brothers, I don't want to do a sequel unless you give me a $200 million budget and I'm going to make it a musical. You're giving me the money? Of course the Access media is spinning it's a troll of the audience. Well, if that's the case, bold move, Warner Brothers, trolling the people who supported the Joker while the Access media was attacking you. Ultimately, it's just a bad movie, and I think it's probably because Todd Phillips had never planned to make it, but was given so much money he couldn't say no. But keep in mind, if you decide to watch it, there's a very good chance that it will completely ruin the original for you. Just chalk this up as another lesson Hollywood won't learn. No, we don't need a sequel or a prequel to everything. We do not need an origin to every hero or villain. We do not need to know the time and place Martha and Thomas Wayne conceived Bruce. Unfortunately, the Joker 2 made the Joker into the story we were concerned about in the first place. A nihilistic, pointless, and meaningless peripheral Batman story set in the world of Batman without Batman.
Nerderotic.com.
Man, pretty much the nail on the head with that one.
For anyone that was actually paying attention to all of the backlash surrounding Star Wars Outlaws, you probably had a pretty good idea that the sales for this game were going to disappoint. But we saw the mainstream media continue to run cover. They said, oh, it's a Star Wars game. It's a Ubisoft game. I'm sure it's still going to sell a lot of copies despite all of these gamers complaining about it. Well, when you have ratioed trailers, when you have horrific clips out there on launch of the game being completely and totally broken, these are really big problems from a PR perspective, from a technical perspective, and just the fact that anything related to Disney Star Wars these days, you're gonna have a lot of people paying attention, potentially criticizing you. Well, now we're starting to learn just what a big disaster this was. We did see shares of Ubisoft tank in the aftermath of Star Wars Outlaws after they lowered their sales expectations for the game. But even those lowered sales expectations probably don't match up to what we're seeing now. And despite Ubisoft saying, you know what, gamers, they're just way too hard on us these days. They expect extraordinary experiences instead of just good old solid games. Well, I don't even think you delivered a solid game with Star Wars Outlaws, and these sales numbers might reflect that. Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies in the month since it launched. Yes, that's right. We're not talking about 2, 3, 4, 5 million. We're talking about 1 million in a month. Star Wars Outlaws was plagued with issues at launch, some of which led Ubisoft to make drastic tweaks. It wasn't well received by the general market, and gamers worldwide have been giving it pretty low scores. It comes as no surprise to learn that in an entire month on the shelves, Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies. It's not as many sales as Ubisoft expected, which explains the recent comments about the game's performance proving softer than expected. It's also partly why Assassin's Creed Shadows was delayed considerably all the way back to February of 2025. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide. And to put that in some type of context or perspective, certainly in the first couple months of release, that's when you expect the bulk of your sales to happen, right? At least the bulk of your sales at top price. Maybe later on down the road, supremely discount, who knows what they might end up selling. But when you look at Ubisoft games in the past, let's take the most recent Assassin's Creed Mirage, which was not one of the bigger entries in the franchise. That's sold about 5 million in 3 months. What about a recent new franchise Star Wars game, Jedi Fallen Order, 5 years ago? In around 2.5 months, they'd sold 8 million copies of Jedi Fallen Order. And in the first month, we are talking about just barely cracking 1 million for Star Wars Outlaws. when you look at the budget that this game had, and including the marketing budget, which was rumored to be one of the biggest for any Ubisoft game we've ever seen. Ubisoft, Lucasfilm, Star Wars Outlaws. No one goes out and buys it. You'd have to expect around 200 million plus just to make the game. And then who knows what that insane marketing budget was on top of that. This is once again another huge controversial disaster for both Star Wars and for Ubisoft. And it should also tell you something. All the people that say, oh, well, just because this trailer got completely and totally ratioed, that doesn't mean anything. Those are just some haters online. That won't affect things. Yes, it will. When we see these things happen, when you see a massive wave of backlash from the general audience, I'm not talking about a couple tweets that go viral. I'm talking about more tangible things like a trailer that's viewed millions and millions and millions of times that gets ratioed to hell. That's an indication that the general public does not feel very good about your product. And you can try to spin that however you want, but when push comes to shove and these things actually get released, we see, oh, wait, it looks like there wasn't as much of a demand as we thought. We could have told you that months and months and months ago. In the lead up to this release, Ubisoft didn't want to listen, and now they have massive problems.
That's hilarious. I always knew that game was going to be super shit.
Anybody here pegging, getting pegged? Nice, hell yeah. Some enthusiastic whoops. Anybody want to discuss? Yeah, nice, dude. How's it going? It's going awesome. Oh yeah. Are you on like a broth diet or what's going on? How often are we getting pegged? You're just going out, so you're getting pegged? Yeah. No. Okay. Huh? Okay. No, okay, but yeah, in you. I don't. What do you mean in people? You going back? Are you going ass to ass like fucking Requiem for a Dream? Or it's like, yeah, I'll penetrate a woman, but with my ass. That's. Are you being honest? Are you really just having a pegging renaissance right now in your life? Huh? That's okay. All right. Well, now I believe you. You're like, I fucking got pegged, dude. I'm fucking dead, dude. Don't fucking fuck with me with your outlandish scenarios. Dildos are going inside me, and you will show me the respect I deserve. All right, I'm sorry. I'm backing up. Who's pegging you? Random? So are you in a relationship?
I'm in like a poly kind of thing right now.
Hell yeah! Now we're talking. So the whole team's is there one? Does everybody get their own? Is it like in gym class where there was like one basketball and everybody used it, or does everybody has the strap on and they're like, oh man, what the hell, guys? Wipe it down, please. I can tell Jason had Chipotle. So what do you live in? Like you're in a little. How many people is in the thing? Would you say? Oh, nice. Okay, that's pretty sick. So it's like, and how does that? So are the like thirds pegging you as well?
Yeah, I mean, I really just try to let her peg me, like.
Nice. Shut up, dude. Whoever the fuck's talking. I'm compelled by this guy. So this modern love, this modern romance. It's like he's dating a woman who pegs him, and then they try and find a third, and then that's pretty cool. If you're having a threesome, it's like. You're really pushing the limits if you're like, oh, this would be a wild night. You know, you find a girl at a bar, and then it's like all of a sudden everyone's fucking, and then like the girl comes back with just starts fucking her boyfriend in the ass. And you're like, all right, fuck it, yeah, this is a wild one.
The boys back
That's
at
pretty
the bar
cool,
won't
but
believe
no guest pegging, just your main girl.
Bro, you gave me a sex advice on your podcast.
Oh, nice, dude, hell yeah. That's what I like to hear, buddy. And honestly, it sounds like you're thriving, dude. I mean, like. Sounds like you found what you needed. How about a hand for our friend over here, huh?
I think I know what he's talking about. Well, come on, give me the fucking termites here. What's up, Rocks? Is Mom home? Go see Mom. If she's home, go say hi. Now gotta wait for me to say. Go say hi. Oh, I got the 10 termites I needed. Let's go. Yippity fucking kaye, motherfucker. Let's go, baby. Woo! Oh, relax. Little dirtbag. You're a little dirtbag, Rocco. Dirtbag, Rocco. Hey there, dirtbag, Rocco. Hey there, dirtbag, Rocks. There we go, baby. Check it out. Look what we just got. We look fucking legendary now, baby. That's what I'm talking about. We got the drip. We got the drip. Baby boys. Hey, baby. All right, you want to do it? Well, pause. Hold up. You want to play some zombies real quick for an hour and a half or so? If you do, bro, join my Discord. I'm gonna end the stream.